Good morning, Lafayette. It is great to see each and one of you this morning. We have a jam packed show for you on tap. Everything from weather to sports to world events to local events, stuff happening at Purdue that you all love to see. And of course, a weather forecast beyond comparison as I go through many of the charts and look at much of the weather. I'm your host, basically, Brian Burden. I am a
Good morning,
meteorologist.
Lafayette. It is
All
great to
right.
see each and one of you this morning. We have
There you go. When you try to make sure that you have your show on and it's ready to go, you got to make sure you turn the sound down, right? Always a little hiccups this first week. I'm just finding it out. I got on actually on time yesterday and today, although Monday and Tuesday I ran a little late trying to figure out where all the buttons were. But yes, again, I'm meteorologist Brian Burden. I guess I'm semi-retired, so to speak. I'm a big sports freak. I love Purdue and the Gold and Black, of course. And it seems like because I'm from the Lafayette area, or at least I have been here for many, 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 many years. I'm an Indiana native, born in northern Indiana. I just love the local area and everything about it. So there is a lot on tap for today, and I'm excited to get to it. Let's go ahead and just get right into the weather, because I know you're worried about a few things. First off, it's going to be very windy late this afternoon into tonight. There's a chance for some thunderstorms this evening. Doesn't look like they'll be severe, but with the gusty winds already out there, you're going to have a lot of gustiness with them. So that's something to keep in mind. And it's going to be very warm for January. That is for sure. With an odd thing happening. Well, it's not that odd, but it does happen once in a while. The high temperature tomorrow will probably be about 2 or 3 in the morning, and it'll be about 60 degrees also. But falling temperatures during the day tomorrow as we get into Friday. It's Thursday right now. What is it? January 8th, Thursday, the 2026 is the year. Are you used to that yet? Or have you started to put 2025 on a few things every once in a while? That always seems to happen, especially when I was working pretty much full time. I might do that occasionally after the new year started. But let's go ahead and get into the weather right now because I know that's what you guys are really interested in. You want to see what's going to be happening. Let's go straight up to it. Let's talk about where we're going to be going, what's going to be happening with these fronts. I went through them pretty good yesterday. At least I thought I did. And we'll see what some of the changes are as we go through that today. It's 44 degrees outside right now, mostly cloudy. You're seeing an increase of high clouds coming in from the west. This is the MSN's just little bug that they put on here and try to give you an idea what the forecast looks like. Remember, this is more canned data from the model, and it just picks out the numbers and puts it in there for you. This is actual, though. It is actually 44 degrees outside. I think we bottomed out around 38, 39 this morning. Then we've been on the increase for an hour or two already because the winds have shifted around to the south and to the southeast, bringing in some of that warmer air. Now, if you go to the overview, you can kind of see it shows a high of 57, low 56. I'm not sure why it's reading that, but as you can see, we're 44 now. We're going to climb all the way into the midnight hour. Look at that. Might make it all the way to 60 degrees by 10 p.m. or so. And somewhere between midnight and 4, the temperature is going to start falling with a chance of rain on the increase. Shows the peak at a high of 76% at about 10 p.m. Midnight 89%, and then 91% at 2 a.m. when it starts to fall off after that. Tomorrow, high of 60, but it'll be clearing skies, a little bit better. Still a slight chance for some rain on Saturday. I'm going to have to take a good look at that. I think we're looking a little better on that front. Let's take a quick look at the satellite first, and I've kind of zoomed out here. I'll put the cursor right where Lafayette is, and you can see the system down and to our west and southwest, kind of moving through Oklahoma, northern panhandle of Texas. Looks like it's even slightly farther to the west than it was yesterday, or at least where they said it was going to be. But we'll take a look at the model and try to figure that out. A lot of the lighter colors here that you're seeing, the yellows and the greens, that kind of thing, and some of those reds are the high tops of these clouds. And so you're seeing a lot of high clouds. And the blues, same thing, higher clouds, mid clouds, somewhere around 20 to 25,000 feet, dependent on where you're at in the atmosphere. We can't see much for low clouds right now because we're covered pretty much over the entire area with the high clouds or mid clouds. So It's kind of a hazy morning out there. You can see through a lot of this, but you are still thick enough, and you can see that it's thicker out towards the west. That we're going to just continue to increase our thickness on the clouds during the day. That won't stop much temperature wise because the winds will be pulled in from the south. And as those winds get pulled in, they pull in the temperatures. That's what they'll do. So we get a warming trend through that. Let's look at a live shot. Here we go. This is the kind of model that's supposed to look at the actual visual shot. But of course, it's still morning. We're just starting to get some of that. So it's really just showing some of the high clouds and it's enhanced. So you can see those pretty well on that. I'll try to keep that on there. I like that one. It shows some of the colors a lot easier to stand out. And in another hour or two, this will stand out pretty good as the sun comes up and the horizon gets a little higher on that front. So let's dive into the models. All right. Here we are, 14Z. We can see rain out towards our west, down towards Missouri, and Arkansas, Oklahoma, right where it's expected to be. And that's where it is right now. This is the model run from 6Z. Let's see what we've got. I think we got a new one. There we go. Let's see what the update for 12Z is. That's good. 12Z actually shows a little bit less rain, which is to be expected along the warm front that is kind of pushing right through here. The low is just off the chart. Lafayette's right up here. You can see it right about there. So keep that in mind of where we are. Look at all these isobars coming straight up from the south and to the southwest as the day goes on. So that'll continue to pull up the winds. The winds kind of run along the isobars, are pretty close to that. They deflect slightly, but they still are pretty close. And the closer they are together, the stronger the wind speed. So you can see here a bit closer, you generally get some more strong gusty winds there. Up here, farther apart, so you would see less winds up in that general area. What we are going to see, though, is a movement of the low pressure system towards us. And as we kind of press in, we see the warm front coming in. And there we are. This time frame is 20 Zulu, which is 8 o'clock. That's not 8 o'clock our time. That's 3 o'clock this afternoon. So Zulu time is 5-hour difference right now. So 3 o'clock this afternoon, we see the low. Again, the low yesterday was about here. And on Monday, they had it about right here. So the closer it was to us, the better chance we had for some rain. It still has a pretty good rain shield coming out along the warm front. So you can see the low pressure system here. Then it kind of wraps up and you can kind of see where the cold front is right there, back there. There might even be a more of a basic cold front back towards the west. It's off the chart there, but you can see where some of the showers are going to be popping up in front of the system. We're going to look for a chance for some showers right around 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. It looks like. Let's go back an hour and see where they are. So there they are approaching a little bit thicker here. So it does seem like there's a couple spots where there could be a little bit heavier shower. There's nothing real dramatic on this at this point. And you move a little farther north, and there we are at 9 Zulu, which is going to put us at right around 4 or 5 o'clock, trying to start to clear out. So it's a quick moving hour or two into the afternoon where there's a chance for a shower or two, and then we're right into these strong gusty winds in this local area here, and we're going to get the rain showers moving just off to our west. Lafayette's right there, right at the point of the finger on the marker there, and you can see showers. You can see some probably thunderstorms back in here starting to pop late in the day, heading towards the midnight hour or so. Looks like the first good chance of rain for us is 7, 8 o'clock. See how it increases? This is with the front, but we're still kind of out on the edge. So don't be surprised if it takes a little longer to press through. But it looks like a few scattered showers popping through, and then the line of showers where we have a better chance for a thunderstorm or two comes through. It says 6Z, so we're talking 1 o'clock in the morning here for the line of thunderstorm potential to come through. Nothing major, but look at the strong gusty winds all around the system, right? Very strong gusty winds in front of it. I'll show the gusty winds on a different chart here in a little bit, but generally speaking, you can see the tightness of those isobars and the fact that we will probably have some very strong winds out of the southwest as the system approaches. So even though there's the thunderstorms may not be these big bruisers with tornadoes and that kind of thing, straight line winds will be very strong, and we're probably talking close to 50 miles an hour. So you want to batten down the hatches tonight, that's for sure, of anything you got loose. There we are, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, starting to clear off, trying to get it out of here. Time-wise, that's where it is. And then it looks like around 7, 8 o'clock, we have another chance for some sprinkles coming. That's the secondary wave. And matter of fact, you could see the cold air way back here, the 5400 line or the 540 line, I like to call it. Generally, north of that, it's snow. You can kind of see that up here to the north. And south of that would be rain, but it's just a generalization, but it's something to look for. And they've marked it on charts pretty easily now to be seen for forecasters. So scattered showers tomorrow morning, linger for a bit, but look how they clear out pretty quickly, huh? So that means some gloominess. Look at that. There's just a little trough of some sprinkles still left. And so tomorrow looks to be just kind of in and out. Maybe kind of a gloomy day with those sprinkles coming and going. And then we start to watch the system to our south and see what it's going to do to us on Saturday. Here we are Friday night. And we see a band of precipitation. The low is now off of the chart. Yesterday, it showed it pretty much right somewhere in the neighborhood of northern Tennessee. Now it's showing it in the Kentucky area, having come up here from the southwest and moving off to our east is where it will be going. But there's also a little secondary trough up there to the north that'll be kicking through at the same time. So you're trying to you have one low pressure system here, another one back up to the north, weak high in between, but there's some moisture all along this system that could bring in some rain Saturday morning, it looks like. And look how close the snow is right there, with Lafayette being right here at this point. So the HRR, the HRRR, the high resolution rapid refresh model, is showing potential for some rain on Saturday still. And remember, yesterday we could see that the back here, there's a kick of some snow on the backside Saturday night into Sunday morning. So I'll be interested to see when we go a little farther out what the NAM says. But right now, it looks like you're forecasting basically the showers. It'll be quiet for a while, sprinkles off and on Friday after the rain tonight. And there it goes on through. Let's take a look at those winds real quick here. Surface, there we go, wind gusts, guys, look at this. So right now, here we are, even just this morning. You can go to the time frame we are right now. It's 14Z locally, well, 1411. You can see 16 to 20 knots in the local area. It's reporting 16, 20 just off to our north over by Grissom, 20 to 18 knots over there. Back over near Champaign, 20 knots. So very consistent. Look at down here, though. We get some disturbance around the low pressure system. Winds 30 knots in some areas, gusting a little higher in places. And watch how that develops as I go through the day here. The pockets change. Look at the gusty winds out in front of the system, way up here. Now we're getting the pocket of winds 30 knots, right? In front of the low pressure system out to the northeast of it. 34, 35. Here we are this afternoon. Okay, this is about 2 o'clock when the warm front is going to try to come through. And we're talking 30 knots, which is basically, let's put it right over Lafayette. 32 knots there, just real close by to Lafayette. That's about 35, pushing 40 miles an hour on wind speeds there. So for your gusts, sustained winds will be 15 to 20 all day. And those gusts will get up near 35. This isn't the highest winds of the day, though. Take a look. It dies a little bit after the front goes through, but not much. Still some potential for 25 to 30, which is 30 to 35 basically for your miles per hour for your gusts. And then look at the pocket that starts to develop along the frontal system and out in front of it this evening. All right. So here we are at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock starts to get really windy. 9 o'clock, it's almost on us. There's a 50 right there. So now you're talking closing in on 60 miles an hour in spots. Could be enhance the thunderstorms just a little bit, but we'll have to see on that. I haven't seen any warnings come out yet for thunderstorms for severe, but straight line winds are going to be a problem no matter what. And then at, let's see, at 10 o'clock tonight, we should be pumping right around 45 knots for our gust with sustained winds right around 25 knots. So you're talking around 50 miles an hour. And then we actually get right to the what's the word? Precipice. There you go. There's some 52 over by Champaign and between Champaign and Danville, but still anywhere in this local area, you're probably going to see a chance for 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts this evening and into tomorrow morning, it looks like. Now that's 4Z, which is 11 o'clock at night. And then it lingers all the way till about 2 in the morning there. And then it starts to die off a little bit. There's a drop off. And then look at this. Remember the second wave we were talking about coming through where, yeah, we're going to be sprinkly and cloudy tomorrow. Look at this. There's some more wind involved with this around 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Here we are pushing 50 miles an hour again. And it moves through pretty quickly. So there's 2 waves of the wind coming through. The first wave of the big winds. It's going to be windy the entire time frame. we're going to be gusting to 30 to 40 just about all day. And then this evening, we'll be gusting near 50, especially into the evening hours, 9 o'clock to midnight. It lingers through to about 2 o'clock. And then it dies for just a little bit, but we're not much, 10, 20 knots. And then it picks right back up near 50 miles an hour around 6, 7, 8 in the morning again. Then that wave moves through, and we just stay strong, gusty winds all day before it finally starts to die off. Friday, late Friday into the afternoon. We'll call it that evening. It'll be dark by that time frame, and then you'll notice a dead calm as a high pressure system starts to move in over, and there's not much left there with that. So that makes me see we can see with the gusty winds the next approaching front. But notice these winds are out of the west and northwest instead of the southwest, right? And the south, which is going to be a warm wind. These are out of the west and the northwest, which is going to bring in and usher in colder temperatures for Sunday and into the beginning of next week. What else do we got here? Let's take a look at the temperatures on this thing. Well, here we are right now. This is 1 hour off. Let's go. There we go. Shows temperatures in Lafayette around 40 to 46. If I go back to the actual temperature right now, it's showing 44, so pretty close on the model on that front with it. And then as the day goes up, look at the big pocket of that warmth down towards our south. Everybody's in the 50s and even the 60s right now already. All right. And then we finally hit 50 right up to, looks like about 11. So it's only going to be an hour or two. It's going to be pretty rapid. And then look at your winds, 20 knots. These are wind barbs here. Okay. And they're pointing toward where the direction's going. Weather works with fromies though. So this means winds are from the south. Basically about 160, 170 degrees, somewhere right in there at around 20 knots. And when you put the cursor on it, shows 18. So 2 long lines on the end means 10 and 20. And they round. Obviously, they round in fives. So that's how the wind barbs look like that. But look how they match up with the isobars. We see how it gets closer here, and you got your strong wind speeds down there. And look at the warmth. The warmth is starting to come up. This is January, folks. January, 60 degrees by late this afternoon. That shows 2, 3 o'clock. So, man, depending on whether the showers pop in and out of the area, because we're going to be, remember that warm front showed those coming across at about 3 o'clock. Let's see if we can find that time frame again real quick. That's 2 o'clock. There we go. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And let me switch back over real quick to precipitation and see where that matches up and see where it is right on top of us. So the gustiest winds and the warmest temperatures are going to be right about that time frame. It's trying to rain at the same time. But we are out far enough onto the warm front that there's a chance that we just don't get much out of the warm front. That being said, it looks a bit stronger than yesterday. I see a little more intensities in here with this. Yesterday, it was more of these very light greens where it was just a spattering of stuff. Let's go back to the temperatures, though, here real quick, and we'll talk about that. It looks like right now that it'll be right around 60, 61. And it drops off, rains a little bit. The sun goes down. But look at these winds. Woo! 30 knots. That's sustained winds. 30 knots, 25 all around us, 60-degree temperatures, 64, 65 south of us. Stays in there, hangs on through tomorrow morning, and then there's the cold starts to change. And this is about 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. We see the temperatures drop from the 60s into the 50 range. By a few hours later, it's just hovering around 40 to 45 into the afternoon. Stays that way. We still don't see the push of cold air getting there, but we see the winds shifting out of the north, a little bit weaker. And then we keep an eye on that system, and we start to see some of the cold air encroaching from Iowa, southern Minnesota into Wisconsin, and we're back into the 30s by Saturday morning, mid to upper 30s, which is generally about where your highs are going to be this time of the year. So that's what the at least out through Saturday morning, looks like. Let's go to the NAM now and go a little farther out. This will get you out into Sunday, it looks like. And the temperatures at that time frame are showing the same, somewhere in the mid 30s, it looks like. The colder air kind of trapped to our north. And so Saturday, it kind of tries to warm us up to about 40. And then look at the bounce, and the big cold starts to come in Sunday night, or that would be Saturday night into Sunday morning. So this is not bad for winter, though, obviously, but a big change from 60s down to the teens, even the lower 20s for us for Sunday morning as that presses through. And then let's see if there's any precipitation with that second little wave. Remember, we were looking at that earlier, and the model didn't go out quite far enough. Let's see what we have here on this. So we went out to basically sometime Saturday morning. Now, see, notice here on this model, this is the NAM, the North American model, and it shows the showers and thunderstorms kind of pressing through. Here's the first line of stuff, and a couple potential sprinkles and light showers lingering. But you notice there's not much for snow on this. It's the NAM doesn't think there's going to be this kick behind it on Saturday in the afternoon. Looks like. Doesn't look like much to it. See, it's kind of knocked it down. Yesterday, it drew all this snow down to probably past Terre Haute, almost closing in on Evansville with the colder temperatures. But now today, it's not showing it as nearly as bad. So more just cloud cover, probably flurries. And because of that, it's not showing any accumulations. Just shows a lot of gloominess. When the winds start coming out of the north here, we pick up moisture off the lake because it is warm and the air is cold. You got the strong gusty winds. Flurries of light snow is going to be possible during Sunday, and it's hit and miss. Sometimes Rensselaer can get a half an inch to an inch. Lafayette gets nothing, or vice versa, half an inch, nothing over here at Rensselaer. Maybe over towards Grissom and Logansport, they might get a half, and we don't get anything over here because the snow comes down in streaks. It's much shorter in width. Well, I say it's 5 to 10, sometimes 20 miles wide, but might extend 100 miles from the lake. And then you'll have clear spots. That's what your lake effect snow does with these strong gusty winds coming off the lake on Sunday, but doesn't look like much at this point. Temperature wise, we talked about that just a second ago. Let's see if there's let's go a little farther out with the GFS here now. Now this model will go out to 2 weeks, and it shows some of the snow coming off the lake too. And here we are right about here where the crosshairs are on that, not the box itself. The box is just giving you a reading of the information there, but the crosshairs is where Lafayette is. And this is what time frame is this? This is Sunday afternoon. All right, Sunday afternoon. You don't see much for precipitation. Some clouds come and go. Maybe a little bit of light flurries on Monday possible. Doesn't show much. Warming up a little bit. It looks like Tuesday. Probably this is all just normal winter weather now, temperature wise. No big cold snaps. There we go. We got a little system Tuesday night into Wednesday, bringing in some rain first and maybe some snow on the backside. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Lots of flurries and snow on the back. And there's a pretty good system coming in from the west next Friday. But remember, when the systems dive in from Canada, they don't have the moisture that the systems do when they come up from the south. So there's less potential of heavy snows unless you're under this darker batch down towards southern Missouri. But that passes through next Friday. So we're a week out already, and there's not a ton of stuff happening, but it'll develop off and on. We'll keep an eye on that. Little couple waves go through. Looks like it is going to turn pretty cold there for a while. And then it's just dry. And then we were talking about next Tuesday or Wednesday, another system coming in. You notice it's gone. It doesn't show hardly anything. So yeah, there it is. Remember I said the timing might change? It still shows that system, but now it's pushed it all the way out to Thursday. So it went from Tuesday to Thursday on this, if that's the same model. Also notice is coming from the southwest, and there's a big band of moisture. There's a big band of ice mixed with it and snow, and these are always something we got to watch out for. But 2 weeks away, so don't count on anything on that front. Let's look at the temperatures, though, because we do look for changes, right? We look for temperature changes and things like that. So here's the colder air, but this is still winter weather. It's nothing out of the ordinary with this at all. Temperature-wise, next week, 30s, 40s, 20s, some teens occasionally in the morning hours. Typical. There's a pretty cold day next Sunday. That was what in front of that one system. So there's a little bit of cold. It looks like that, and then just and into the following week. So the following week looks even colder. Pretty easy forecasting, looking at this, generally speaking, at the moment. Here we are early. We're going to be fairly warm for the next few days, very warm compared to normal. Then we're going to get near normal for a while next week. I'm going pretty quickly with these charts. Sorry about that. And then the following week, it gets a bit bitterly cold, although still maybe just some single digits there. That's about it. That's not too bad for winter for us. There's another day, Sunday and Monday, the 18th and 19th. So we're talking a week and a half away, and stays cold. And then towards the end, it starts to warm up again. So a little bit of a change there. from warm to mild to normal. We'll just call it normal for temperatures next week, and then a bit chilly the following week, with lots of opportunities to change by that time frame. The system that showed coming in next Tuesday or 2 weeks away has moved all the way to Thursday already, and you see a lot of that in these long range forecasts. It's too hard to pick up something small like that, but it does pick up trends, usually like with temperatures. Sometimes it picks up those trends with moisture. See a lot of the moisture. If it looks dry for a long period, it probably stays that way, even though it's a week and a half out on the forecast. So it's something to keep in mind there. Let's go quickly back to the chart showing that, and you kind of see this. See 60. These are the warm days, right? Today and tomorrow, like we talked about, falling during the day, and then the highs of 32 to 40 on Monday into Tuesday. And you pop out on this is the models, and it shows that these are all normal temperatures for winter. Nothing out of the ordinary there, and nothing really blasting the cold. Let's go down to this the chart that shows the temperatures and where everything's been all year. I like this chart a bit because it shows you the averages in the dark, right? The dark dashed lines are your average temperature. In this case, the blue is showing the lows every day from way back in March till now, January. And then the red, of course, is your highs for each day. And then here's today is the line up and down, right? You can see that. And then you can see what the forecasts are for each day, basically, and what it shows. And you get a kind of feel for what it was. Remember the really cold temperatures we had back in mid-December? Well, there you are. You see the pocket of them right there in early to mid-December. Then we got warm. Then we cooled off for a little bit. Now we're really, really warm again. And then we're going to get back to normal. A little shot of cold, like I talked about. And then maybe late January into February on the long range stuff. Now you're talking maybe another warm up again. So not out of the ordinary. Generally in the winter, we'll start to get a kind of steady cold, and we're not seeing that yet. We're seeing a lot of up and down, more like you see in spring back out here in April and May. See how there's tons of ups and downs. Normal for spring. There's a kind of secondary time when that happens again in November or the fall. And the summer it gets kind of steady where your temperatures are just kind of, they're hot, 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 hot. And in the winter, they're cold, cold, cold. But we're still seeing a lot of ups and downs right now for our temperatures here in Lafayette. So that's the forecast right now. 44 degrees. You're going to see that kind of forecast updates in places around anywhere. I don't think you are. Let's take a quick look at the satellite again. Not anything really changing that we're seeing here. The lows out near Oklahoma and Texas will be pushing stuff in later today with some rain and chances for thunderstorms tonight and strong gusty winds. The visuals just starting to pop up. You can see some of the ground out over north of Lake Erie and to the east of Lake Hudson. We're still just picking up high clouds and just not picking up anything. We're not going to see much for low clouds today because everything's going to be underneath the higher clouds above it. So what a day ahead for us. It's pretty exciting to see what's been going on. Weather-wise, it's always a big deal for me. Obviously, being a weatherman, it interests me no matter what time of the year it is, what time of the day it is. I just get, I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. So, and we call ourselves weather geeks. Maybe you're a weather geek too, and maybe you're not a meteorologist, but you're a weather geek and you like to hear these things and talk about them. And I knew at like 12, 13 years old, I wanted to be a weatherman. So most of us don't know that. I don't know why it happened that way. God just put it in my head. And sure enough, here I am. So now I'm doing a show that I thought would be important to people, talking about different things in our local area and getting your word out there, whether it's world events, local events, weather, sports. I'm big on sports. Had a big basketball game last night. I'm going to get into that here in a little bit. We have all kinds of different things that have been happening locally. I'll cover a few of those. Kind of nice with that. And we'll just try to get it all. It's 3 hours right now. There's no commercials on this show or anything. Tell your friends if you're out and about and you want to see what's going on, or come back to it later. It's going to be on YouTube. Eventually, it's going to be on Facebook Live also, but Facebook gave me some kind of warning, said I had to wait 60 days. I'm not sure what that was. I don't know if it's because they think it's a business or a podcast. So I got to wait like another 20 or 30 days before I'm live on Facebook. You can still click on the link on Facebook and go to the page. It'll be there every day after the show is over. So it goes from the live and then it puts it in as an actual tab that you can go back and look. And I noticed a lot of you do that. Go back and look and see what was was being talked about during the day. That's kind of nice. And I've had a lot of people chatting in the last couple days. First couple days, not much happened, but yesterday I had a lot. So chat with me. Tell me what you think, what you're thinking, what you're looking at, and where we're going to go from here with all the information that you have. Well, I could dive into some of the world news after this weather that we just talked about, but I think I'm going to pop into sports. Why? Because it's local, right? It is. It's local. So let's get into some of the information about what happened in the ball game last night. Purdue took on Washington. Purdue's ranked number 5 in the country. They are currently now they came into the game 13-1. They're now 14-1. They won the ball game 81-73. But there were some hiccups in there. Boy, they looked like they were just stomping them, just running over them. They got up by 23 points in the second half, and they were still up by 20 somewhere around 9.5 minutes left in the ball game. And then they just kind of flatlined a little bit, right? Giving up 45 points to a injured Washington team is pretty tough in the second half. And then Purdue only scored 36. There was about a 5 to 6 minute stretch there from like the 9.5 minute mark, maybe 10 to like 5 or 4 minutes where Purdue barely scored or did anything. And Washington took advantage and came back. The game ended up being 8 points, and that's as close as it had gotten in the half. Purdue had always had them at double digits, but it just looked a little lackadaisical, kind of like the Washington game last Saturday. It's like the guys don't have the mentality. I know they do. We know they're there. They play. Have you ever heard this expression, play to your competition's level? Sometimes that happens. So they went out, they stomped on them, they got way ahead, and then they just kind of let up a little bit and just played to their level and said, we're okay. We got to have that killer instinct because you do that against a team in the NCAA tournament and say it's Arizona, right? Arizona comes back. That being said, I think if you're playing Arizona, you're not going to do that. You're not going to let up as the game goes on. Lots and lots of turnovers. There was an interesting kind of switch on the rebounds as the game went on. Rebounds wise, I remember looking at it. I think it was Purdue was behind 11-13, but it ended up 37-25 in Purdue's favor. So they started crashing the boards pretty strong and hard, though. So that was a nice plus. That was a great twist there that happened for Purdue. And obviously, the bench guys played really good in this game. Everybody played pretty decent. Fletcher did not shoot the ball very well. He had an off night on his percentages. He was only 2 for 8 and didn't make a three-pointer. Matter of fact, Purdue was only 5 for 15 on threes. CJ Cox made 2 and Braden made 1. Braden had the big night. Remember yesterday when we were talking about the team, I said, Braden will do whatever Braden needs to do to get the win out of there, right? If it's assists, he gives you assists. If it's rebounds, he rebounds. If it's scoring, he scores. Well, yesterday, they were giving him the opportunity to score, and he took advantage. He shot 10 of 15 from the field and scored 23 points to go along with his 7 assists. The only downside, 6 turnovers. He and Trey Kaufman each had 6 turnovers, and the team had 14, and that kind of was what kept Washington in the game. It just seemed like they were lazy little passes and things didn't go quite well, and they weren't on the same board with each other, and that's going to happen. That's what's good about being a really great team. When you're off a little bit like that, you still can win the ball game pretty easily, and they did. And then we were worried a bit about the offensive rebounding by Washington. They only got 9 while Purdue got 11. So a big change there. I think that worked out on Purdue's favor pretty well too. Overall, Purdue shot 57%. So while they shot 33 from 3-point, they obviously shot very well from the 2-point range. And believe it or not, they took 3 less shots than Washington. So that's because of all the turnovers, right? All the turnovers led to more shots. And the offensive rebounds led to a few extra shots for Washington too. So it looks like it was one of those games where they kind of slowed down their big guys, and it looked like we were running over them, and then we kind of slowed down, let up off the gas, played to your competition's level, so to speak, some people would like to say. And I can remember I'm not a college player, never played college basketball. Everything I did was in the military pretty much, which is pretty tough regime to run, playing softball or football or basketball there. I can remember that happening. I can remember showing up with some teams and we looked like a ragtag bunch and people wouldn't think much of us. And then we would just run over you because they didn't think much of us. and they were surprised. But we did the same thing. We would get up against teams. There'd be teams that show up in uniforms and all this, and we'd be all, well, we need to watch what's going on, and we're just wearing sweats and doing whatever we're doing, and then we would beat them pretty badly at times because we thought they were better. Um, this team is solid when it comes to the mentality of what's going on. But in the last two games, we've seen a couple of those little drop offs in the second halves when the game is pretty much done and over with. And that's not a mentality we want to get into at all with these guys. And I think they'll change that pretty quick. And I'm sure Coach Paint had seen that. Let's get into some of the numbers, though. I went to the Purdue men's basketball page to find some of these numbers. You can find them there, too, if you would like. I'm not the big statistician. I love numbers, but I don't get them myself. I always get them from somebody else, right? Got computers can do that now. So Purdue was ranked fifth. Obviously, they won 81-73. They improved to 14-1 overall, and they're unbeaten in the Big Ten. They're 4-0. There's only three teams. Nebraska won again. Michigan pulled a game out yesterday by 2 at Penn State. I didn't see any of the highlights. I've just seen that they won by 2. That's goes to show you at any given night you need to watch out. And Penn State is coming in here Saturday or Sunday, whichever time the next game is. They're the next one coming in. So, and they just got off and almost beat Michigan. So something to keep a mindset on that one. The Big Ten, though, they are now 4-0. Purdue is in the conference, and they're looking pretty good, tied for the lead. Purdue led in this game by as many as 23 points and held a double-digit lead for almost 30 minutes of the game. 27 of the last 28, 0-4 of the game. So the Boilermakers didn't trail at all and were tied for just 27 seconds. And 27 seconds was the beginning of the game. Purdue went out to a 9-0 lead. Bam, just like that. So if you look at the score, they basically got beat the rest of the game, right? They got beat by a point the rest of the game. So just because you get out there, and yesterday I've even mentioned it, a lot of times teams don't jump out to those leads, and it's a tight game for 10 minutes or so until one takes control of it. Well, Purdue took control immediately, and that did help the rest of the game, and they kind of kept pushing it and pushing the score out there. But then in the second half, there was that falter, so something to think about. Here's a great one. Over the last 6 games, Purdue has trailed or been tied for just 16 minutes and 9 seconds. That's out of 240 minutes. So they've been playing really well. And even the early portions of games where it's been close, they generally have at least a couple point lead or something. This win enables Purdue to match the best 15-game start in school history. They've done this 8 times, including previously in 23 and 24, 22 and 23, 10 and 11, 9 and 10. And what are we going to hear? Oh, Purdue can't do it. They're overrated. Yet here we are every season coming through, especially this is 3 in a row now, 3 seasons in a row where they're 14-1. 14-1, 3 seasons in a row. Oh, but Purdue is overrated. All right, we'll see how that goes by the end of the season. Now, Purdue is 4-0 in the Big Ten for just the 3rd time, though. They did that in 2017-18 and 10 and 11. Wow. So it's been a while, right? It's been a while. Since the start of the 16-17 season, Purdue is 77-12. Woo! In Big Ten games in Mackey Arena. So they don't lose very much in the last 10 years, maybe once a year. The second best winning percentage among all Power 5 teams, with Kansas being at 73-10. So, and what I'll say as well, if the Kansas City played 6 more games, or Kansas played 6 more games at home, they'd probably have a worse record than Purdue. That's the way you want to look at it. Purdue is now 205-15 under Matt Painter when scoring at least 80 points, including a 119-5 since the start of the 2017-18 season. Wow. So, 205-15 when they score 80. That's why I want them to shoot a lot. Just keep shooting. They would have held Washington. They had them on the ropes. It looked like it was over. They could have ran them into the dirt. Instead, it just kind of let up off the gas a little bit. And Washington shifted gears and tried to catch up. Luckily, Purdue was still strong enough to keep them at bay. Purdue shot 56%, 50% in their last 15 games, including 5 times during the 6-game winning streak. So there you go. In the last 15 games, they're averaging 50%. And that's with a nasty loss in the middle of that. So the Boilermakers shot 68% or 67.9 in the first half against Washington. And that is the highest percentage they've shot all season. Also, they scored 45 points in that first half. So Purdue won the rebound battle by 37-25 margin. against a team like I showed you yesterday that was ranked 39th nationally in rebound margin. So that was something that was a possibility that Washington could take advantage of. But Purdue's been a great rebounding team all season too, and we've kept a lot of our the opponents off the boards pretty well. The bench scored 20 points, and they've done that 9 times out of the last 10 games. You got to have a deep bench. People keep telling you that the bench could play for many teams, and they probably could on a lot of teams. On this team, they're coming off the bench, but they all know their roles. They come out, they score, they do what they got to do. And they had the same mindset that the starters do. What's my role, coach? What do I got to do? All right, I'm going out and doing it. All right. Trey Kaufman-Wren had a double-double again, this time 14 points, 14 rebounds, and it is his, 7th double-double in 13 games. Those who said he could not rebound are incorrect. He is showing it to everybody. Now, he's taking less shots. He's letting everybody else score, and I think Trey, TKR, is fine with that as long as they win a national championship, right? So prior to the season, he had only 4 double-doubles, and he's already got 7 this year, just this year in 13 games. So, and he surpassed 1,300 career points in the victory. So awesome there. Now, Braden led Purdue with 23 points. He had 7 assists and 3 steals. And this was his third 20-point game of the season. He also did it against Oakland, I think, and Alabama, where he had 29 against Alabama. Smith also reached the 900 assist plateau for his career, making him the second player in NCAA history with 1,500 points, 900 assists, and 500 rebounds. Ohio's DJ Cooper was the other guy who did it. He enters Saturday's game with Penn State with 1,575 points, 900 assists, and 593 rebounds. And my guess is that he is either the only one, well, he's definitely the only one in Big Ten history that's got that, but he keeps passing people as he goes through the season. So CJ Cox tallied 11 points for his third double-figure outing in the last 4 games. And over the last 4 games, CJ is averaging 11 points a game. Love it, CJ. That's your guy. That's your guy. That's your guy that may make up things. Him and Fletch. We know what we're going to get out of Clough, TKR, and Braden pretty much. 2 of them are going to be on most games. Most of the time, 3 of them are going to give you some good play, right? CJ has been putting it forward. Now, Fletch has been off a little bit with his shooting lately, and it was off again last night. He's going to come around. Everybody's not too worried about that, but I would still like to see him chuck up about 10. He only took like 4 3-pointers yesterday, I think it was. I'll go back to that here. Let's see what I got here. Fletch shot. Yeah, he only shot 4. He went 0 for 4. So maybe he just said, well, I'm not shooting that well. We'll get other guys involved. And that's exactly what happened. He got more people involved, and a lot of other guys were able to score and do things. Purdue had 6 players with at least 8 points, including Omer Meyer, who came in. That was the most for him since like way back in November against Eastern Illinois. And Meyer went 2 for 2 from the 3-point range. And in his last 3 games, he's 4 for 7. So maybe he's starting to heat up after he had a lull too. And Jack Benner came in and continues the streak. He was 1 for 1 from the field and has now made 14 straight field goal attempts spanning 5 games. Wow, 14 straight field goal attempts spanning 5 games. That's crazy. That's crazy. And Jack was only in the game for 7 minutes, and he got 2 rebounds too. So, and one was an offensive rebound. So there you go. Jack doing some work. Jakari was in for about 18 minutes. Didn't take a shot, got a rebound, but we know he was playing some tough defense, right, for Jakari. We got to get Jakari heated up and moving, right? Let's look at the double tandem of Oscar Clough and Daniel Jacobson. Remember what I said? I would love to get 20 points and like 15 to 18 rebounds out of them. And let's see what happened. But they've been averaging, I think it was 19 and 11 or 12. Well, we'll take that anyway. 19 and 11 or 12 from your center is good every night. But here's what happened yesterday. Clough had 8 points. Daniel had 10. So there you go. And Daniel was only in for 13 minutes, so he did a good job. Matter of fact, it seemed like the whole first half Clough didn't shoot. Just seemed like that he was involved rebounding and stuff. He just didn't shoot, it seemed like, because they were doing other things. Braden was getting wide open shots. Fletcher was getting wide open shots. And some of them weren't going down, but they were getting plenty of them. So it wasn't like the offense was struggling. But that's 18 points between the 2 of them. And Oscar got 7 rebounds, and Daniel got 1. So we got a 18 and 8 guy out there as our center. we'll take that. They'll have better games. Oscar missed a couple free throws. Otherwise, he'd have hit double digits again on his scoring. And he'll bring that around too. We've seen him off and on at times this year, but we like what Oscar's doing on that. And it looks like that two-headed monster there is going to be great with Oscar getting most of the time. And then you got this totally different person coming in when Daniel comes in, the taller, thinner shot blotter, shot blocker, more than the scorer, big time rebounder that Oscar is. But between the two of them, they're exactly what we want. And both of them had 2 blocks. So how about 4 blocks between them too? I didn't even see that. Yeah, great. And they had 2 offensive rebounds between the two of them. Now, so we already talked about Trey, who had 14 points and 14 rebounds, and Braden, who had 23 and 7. The guys off the bench, though, there you were. Daniel had 10. Omer had 8 off the bench. No big reboundings or assists off the guys off the bench, other than the 2 blocks from Daniel. So on the other side, it looked like there was about 4 guys on Washington who scored in double digits. Steinbach was the guy that we had to worry about. Heinz Steinbach. I think he's from Germany. I think we did a pretty good job. He scored near his average on points at 17, but he only had 4 rebounds. And he's been pulling off a lot more rebounds than that, I believe, so far this season. But Purdue kind of stuck him down there in the blocks and kept at him, and everything went well for the game last night. So Purdue did a good job. They won. They're now 14-1. Man, they keep doing this every season. Every season that people keep saying they're overrated. They went to the national championship game, and they still said they were overrated. Zach's too big. He's just a big guy. Braden, well, he had Zach. Well, he's doing more without Zach. And most people, if you know basketball, would know that that's probably what was going to happen, right? So, but the game last night, 81-73, Purdue won. Let's see here. They scored 45 in the first half and 36 in the second. They gave up 28 and let Washington score 45 in the second half. Basically, remember I said after that 9-0 start, they got outscored by a point the rest of the game because they only won by 8, although most of the game they were up around 20. So just got to keep that pedal to the floor, get to that point where you can send in the other guys, right? The bench guys that you want to get some work and get them in there, especially in a team like Washington that's in the lower half of the Big Ten right now. That's what we really want to do if we can get that done that way. So let's see what else we got going on today. So that was the Purdue game that was pretty big that happened last night. I already kind of covered what was going on weather-wise. If you didn't hear it already, very windy today, increasing. Chance for a thunderstorm tonight, maybe a brief shower this afternoon for an hour or two as the warm front goes through, and temperatures get up to around 60. The high on Friday will be around 60, 62, but it'll be like 2 in the morning. So, and then there'll be falling temperatures and a little more seasonable for about a week, and then even colder the following week. But the farther out you go, the less chance that you're going to be accurate. Remember that, folks. Just got to remember that. It's one of those things that people, they try to tell you that you missed this or you missed that. Well, how far out was it? And was it, the closer in we get, obviously, the better we're going to get. And right now, on a 48-hour basis, about 90% of what we say we hit pretty good. That's really good. We were shooting for like 80% when I first 40-something years ago, when we had to do our own charts and analyze our own charts. We were shooting for about an 80% accuracy back then, and that was a good forecaster. But now we're probably at about 90%. Because there's just always going to be small things that may get mixed in there that might have problems with. So there we go. What are you doing out there? Huh? Chat with me if you get a chance, right? I see there's a couple people out there right now. A couple thumbs up. That's nice to see. Just give me a ring. Tell me what you're thinking. What some of the big news? We've got the woman that got killed yesterday by the ICE agent up in Minneapolis, and you seem to be either on one side or the other very quickly. You remember what I told you yesterday? Wait 24 hours to 48 hours on any huge big event, because you're going to get all this information and people are going to say things that aren't true and didn't happen. I look at the video myself just quickly. I'm going to get back into this a little bit, but my first impression of the video that showed from behind, and you could see the officer in front of the vehicle, was maybe she wasn't trying to run him over, but it sure looked like she was trying to run him over. And I can see why he did what he did. If that was anybody else, no one would have probably had a problem with it. But because we're arguing about ICE right now, everybody seems to have a problem with it. It's hard to say. I wasn't there. I think myself, I would have probably just tried to jump out of the way first, but that's just me. I'm not sure about the officer. I'm not an officer. I'm not trained to kill people. I'm a pastor. Uh, I probably would have jumped to the side and said, "Hey, wait, let's talk." That's what I would have done. But generally, from what I can see, people are either that was a killing or that was the way it should be. The officers should be able to protect himself. So chat with me and let me know what you think about that if you get a chance. We captured two tankers yesterday, one in the North Atlantic and one back in the Caribbean, both Russian flagged ships. That put a hanker into the Russians. They didn't like that at all, did they? But we did that with a swooped right in, and there's video out there of it, and it's pretty cool. Not the one in the North Atlantic, but the one in the Caribbean. They show the Blackhawks coming in, the guys coming down the ropes, getting in there. So the tankers were there. That's going to affect a lot of different things. I heard a statement yesterday called CRINK. Have you ever heard of CRINK? I was talking yesterday about BRICS, which was Brazil, Russia, India, China, BRICS. K. What's the K? Oh no, it's CS. Sorry, S was South Africa. So that was the BRICS, and they were trying to get together all their money together and all their everything to take over basically what was going on in the world, because that would give them at least or close to 50% of the money and the goods and all the different things going out across the globe, and BRICS would take over. So BRICS for that, for BRICS. But yesterday I heard the term CRINK. CRINK, it was the first time I had heard that. It was China, Russia, India, actually, it's Iran in this case. China, Russia, India. I did it again. China, Russia, Iran, right, and North Korea. And that this is kind of trying to be an Axis event. Remember in World War II, we had the Axis and the Allies. We were the Allies, and everybody who was with us was the Allies, and the other side was the Axis. Well, now they're calling this CRINK the new Axis, right? So not our allies, and they're trying to stay together. But doing some of the things that Trump's been doing the last few days and the last week, starting with Maduro and taking the tankers, he's putting a lot of pressure on the CRINK people. And you notice there's no response other than stomping their feet and complaining to everybody, which is exactly what was to be expected, because Russia has no place to go at this point. They're fighting a war right now that they can't win. It's a trench war, and they made it that because they are. I hoped and pray that they never get to the point where they go, let's just use nukes on the battlefield, tactical nukes, because then they would just run right over Ukraine if they wanted to do that. So that's something. Otherwise, it's going to be bogged down like they are. It also affected things. People went crazy on Greenland yesterday. What I say, wait 24 to 48 hours. You'll find out what the actual story is and how it's going to go. I've got a chart, maybe I'll show you in a little bit, that shows some of the countries that are affected by what happened with Maduro and that kind of thing. And what are the opportunities for us to help? Would we go in there militarily? That kind of thing. There's plenty of Iranian protests. And I'm not talking just in Tehran. There's videos in Tehran of all kinds of blockages by the protesters, blocking the streets. Some of the now the police are getting in with the Iranian protesters, and every big city in the country has protests going through it. And it's something you don't do in Iran because they start shooting you. So we'll have to see how that goes. It's been going on for 10 days, but it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. So does the Iranian regime actually fall? And then that ixnay's CRINK, doesn't it? Because Iran probably wouldn't be part of that. You would think whoever takes over would not be part of the axis of evil, so to speak. And then there was a shooting out in Utah last night at a one of the Mormon places out there, I think, or the Latter-day Saints, depending on how you want to talk about it, at a church. I was actually at a funeral, and a couple people got killed. Just seeing some highlights on that. I haven't seen much on what happened and why it happened. And I don't think they know yet. So got to wait till more information comes in and to see what's happening on those fronts. So let me see what I got teed up first off. I told you I go to the Daily Wire a lot of times because I get a lot of, especially world news, in a lens that is not tainted as much. It's still tainted at times in one direction or the other, but most of the time it's fairly down the middle. All right. But the shooting, let's go back to the shooting yesterday I'm gonna highlight this just for a minute or two, and maybe we'll pick it back up in the second hour or the third hour. Um, the video we've seen is a woman in her car, and she's crossed the street, and the ICE agents are in a snowbank, and they come out of their car. I don't know what happened before that, right? For her to be crossways in the street, to be crossways. So the officers come up. There's an officer in the front. I can see an officer on the right side, also in the video, and then two officers on the left come up, and her window's down, and they're yelling at her. And I don't know if she had already done something or she was in the way. What was going on? It's hard to say. You clearly see her put it in reverse, stop, clearly put it into forward, and clearly move towards the agent that's in the front. And then he pulls the trigger and shoots through the front windshield. He didn't shoot through the side. He shoots through the front windshield. And immediately people took sides. I mean, literally, I saw stuff on Facebook within an hour of this is a murder, or yeah, this is an okay thing that he did because his life was in danger. That it all came out very, very quickly. Nobody waited. Nobody waited to see more video. Nobody waited to see what's going on. And now we're hearing things like this woman had 3 kids and she had a partner or a wife, I guess. Her wife is now saying that the woman shot by ICE, she made her go down there to confront them. That's what her wife is saying. So she said, I made her come down here to confront agents as she breaks down in harrowing footage. They have footage of her talking about it and saying that she's the one that made her go down there. Well, that's, indication too that she was planning something. Whether it was nefarious or not, it's hard to say. But the car itself is considered a weapon. Remember that. Those people want to say, well, she didn't have a gun. She didn't have anything. A car is considered a deadly weapon. If she had hit that officer and run him over, she very well could have killed him easily. And you see, he didn't even take the gun out until she started to move. Right as she's starting to move forward, he starts to pull his gun out and he quickly shoots through the windshield and he hits her. And then she goes and crashes off into another car at high speed. So it happened very, very quickly. Boy, hard on a judgment call like that. I said, in my mind, I think I probably would have just jumped out of the way. Hey, hold on. Can we help you? That kind of thing. I would have yelled at her through the window. But there's a lot of protests now going around. You got the mayor in Minneapolis, St. Paul, basically screaming on air and cussing and all kinds of things. And I understand that he's upset about it, but he's kind of inciting the riot to go forward with people to do it. So, yeah, well, here's one of the highlights, and it's live on the channel. Minneapolis erupts as protesters clash with riot cops after ICE shoots Renee Nicole Good. Her name was Good, her last name. So there's protests going on there. There were protests last night about it. Most of them, what I saw last night was pretty benign, though. People weren't doing anything crazy, but it sounds like maybe this morning they're starting to clash a little bit. So we'll have to keep an eye on that situation today. And again, wait another 24 or 48 hours to see any more information. Maybe there's more video. Maybe there's audio. Maybe she's yelling at them. She's going to kill them. I don't know. There's lots of different things could be going on. Or she could be saying, hey, I'll move my car over here. And it was an accident and it was a mistake, right? That could be a possibility too. And then there's some problems if that happened. Although, how's the officer in the front to know that? Maybe, but maybe the officer who was walking up has video and audio, and we hear her saying, "I'm going to kill you," or "Okay, I'll pull my car up over here." It's hard to say. But with all the reports and all the protests that have been going on, and they've been at ICE people and they've been attacking them off and on, I would be on the edge too if I was an ICE officer, any kind of officer, really. I would be worried about anybody who approached me anytime because people seem to have their own ideas of how police are supposed to react and act, and anything that looks shady to them immediately becomes something that's against the world when it's not always that way. And I'm not making any excuses for the officer in any way, shape, or form. So let's see how it plays out in the next couple of days. All right. So calm down a little bit, those of you who are out there think it's a murder, and calm down if you think the guy did everything perfect, because he may not have done everything perfect. We'll have to see how it goes. All right. So let's see what else. That was the woman, and we're getting close to the top of the hour, and I'll get back to the weather again here pretty quick. Again, multiple people shot dead and more injured outside a church in Salt Lake City as police hunt a gunman. It was about 7:30 last night, their time. 2 people were killed and 8 injured at this point, and they don't have the gunman, I don't think. So they're still looking for the gunman on that front with that. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, so right before we get to the top of the hour, I'm also going to tell you. Remember, I was going to show you a map, or at least a just a not a map. Well, there's a map at the top, and then it just kind of goes through each country and how what happened to Maduro over the weekend can affect these countries in our hemisphere and around us. And I'll show you that next hour. But I just wanted to kind of tease it a little bit. And it talks about Canada, Panama, Cuba, some different places, and we'll go through each one of those and talk about those real quickly in a story that is there on the Daily Mail. Daily Mail, a pretty good place. Most of the time, they're fairly down the middle, lean a little bit left, but nothing major there, I don't think. So I think and most people would enjoy their articles. They try to play it straight down the middle, but you can't do that. I don't care what side you're on. If you don't like what it says, you think they're not helping out or whatever. So maybe they lean a little right, and I just think they lean a little left. That could be a possibility too. Something to keep in mind, at least on that front for all of us. All right. Let's see what else we got here. We are at the top of the hour now. So let's go back and check out the weather, right? We want to see, we were talking about warmer temperatures and everything going to start warming up pretty quickly. Let's go look at the charts real fast again. Bam. Full screen. Boom. There it is. 48 degrees. So we rose 4 degrees already since last hour when we started talking about the weather. And I started to talk about the different things that were going to happen. A very windy day ahead, especially tonight. With winds gusting probably at 50 miles an hour in places, isolated spots to maybe 60. So it's something to keep in mind. There'll probably be some wind advisories out. If they're not already out, they'll be out by this afternoon to watch out for that. Probably some thunderstorms come through with this system too. They don't look huge or anything, but with the strong gusty winds already, these are called straight line winds. They're not convective in nature. But when you put the convective with it, with a thunderstorm there and some straight line winds already, tie your stuff down at your house somewhere, wherever it is. You got something in your yard you're worried about, make sure you tie it down or bring it in because it's going to be very windy tonight. And there should be advisories for winds coming out pretty soon, later today or this evening. I'm sure of that. And watch out for the thunderstorms. So right now, though, look at the winds, about 160 at 10 miles an hour. So that's a southerly wind or a southerly approach pulling up warmer air from our south. It's going to let us head towards what this says is 57. I would not be surprised if we're like 62 by midnight. And then we hang around that number. It shows a high tomorrow of 60, which will come in the morning, probably between midnight and 3. And then there'll be falling temperatures during the day for tomorrow. So that's what it shows here. And there's a chance for the warm front to pop through this afternoon, somewhere around, I've been saying 3 o'clock is the time frame. And you notice the increase on this model goes from little to nothing chances to about 45, and then it increases all the way up to like 90% by midnight to 95% for that line of thunderstorms coming through after midnight, which I've been saying is midnight to 3, maybe 4 in the morning is your best chance to run into a thunderstorm, a clap of thunder, and very strong gusty winds through this entire period as this system tries to move through. Well, what does the system look like? Here's your latest satellite chart. It looks a little crazy here, right? A little hard to see, but right here is where Lafayette is. I put the cursor on where Lafayette is. You can see that. A lot of these yellows, greens, and reds, they're very high clouds. The reds especially are your tops of your thunderstorms usually. The blue, more of a mid-level cloud to your upper-level clouds. So these aren't really producing much precipitation. Yes, the reds and yellows over there where the thunderstorms are, yes. But the clouds out in front aren't doing much with that at this point. And it does look like that the increase in clouds is exactly what we thought, but there'll be some spots of sun here or there. Let's see what the visual looks like. We'll zoom in a little bit closer. We're starting to pick up some of the visual. Still, we see lots of high clouds up above everything. And unfortunately, that means we're not going to see down to the ground very well with Lafayette being right about here. You can kind of see where the river and the highway come together there. But we're starting to pick up visual. You can start to see stuff off towards our east. This will get brighter and brighter over the next couple of hours. And by the noon time frame, we'll be able to see everything, but we won't be able to see through the clouds because it's a visual shot. All right. So that's how that works. And then we've got this is the model run. I'm going to go back to, am I on HRR? I'm going to go to HRR, which is the high resolution rapid refresh. And this is a model which shows you what's going on, and it updates every hour. Every hour it updates. This is its big update, which was at 12 Zulu. and it shows the warm temperatures coming in today. So here we are this morning, 40s, 45, 48. But look at how quickly, boom, boom, boom. There we are touching 60, 61 degrees by late this afternoon, especially if the clouds, the high clouds aren't that thick. But right around the time frame that the front wants to come in, we see temperatures even around 61 degrees, 59 in Lafayette. Believe it or not, this thing is showing Crawfordsville today. This is kind of random sometimes where the temperatures are, but 59 in Lafayette, even shows some 60s and 61s around us, and 61 down in Crawfordsville, 62 in a couple places there too. So the model is that's what it shows. I'm going to pop one more here. This is the College of DuPage page that I'm getting these models from, and I got the when you go up here to the weather data, you can hit satellite and radar, or you can hit the numerical forecast, which is what I'm looking at right now. We're going to go to satellite and radar again, but this time we're going to go to the radar and see where the mosaic is showing precipitation. And that's the big picture. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit to subsectors here. Let's go over to the Missouri one, which still shows us in the corner. I'm also going to add the counties on here for you guys to see. There's the interstates and there's the counties. Lafayette right here. You can see Lafayette way over here. Get rid of that out of the way, move it up a little bit. Let's see how the precipitation's moving towards us. And again, some of this, especially out here where the high clouds are, some of this is not reaching the ground out here where the warm front is. And the model shows the warm front washing through us this afternoon. You remember I said 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock for a chance of some showers. Some of this may wash out and fall apart. Some of it may stay together in a few spots. And then you got your bigger thunderstorms back out towards Kansas right now, and some of the showery activities out there. You notice here that the blues, very light precipitation. It's probably either clouds or just a light virga. Virga is rain that doesn't get to the ground, maybe coming out of some of those clouds. Generally speaking, we're in good weather right now, so these are probably just some clouds that are pinging off of there. Maybe they're a little thicker and they're showing up a little easier. This is all precipitation out towards the west. If you go to the dual next rad and you get the shot out of Chicago, it'll show you a little closer. And there's one out of Indianapolis too, kind of like that. We'll use that from time to time, especially when things get in closer to us. But right now we'll go here. If I go down really close to the subsurface here and we get in real close to Lafayette, you can see the radars pinging out here for fog, but here's your rain still back out towards Missouri, just now getting towards St. Louis. And it's going to take a while to get across the state and get to us this afternoon. So 3 to 5 o'clock looks like a really good time frame for the chance of some showers with this batch that's down towards our southwest. When I go back to the model, let's see, where's the model at? There it is. Let's show where the precipitation is going to be. Let's go to the winter model. Bam. All right. So there it is right there coming across. That is 20Z, which is 20. You ever have one of those days where you can't think about it? That is 3 o'clock. So that hits pretty good where it shows at. Probably just a hair before 3 o'clock is the time frame on that. And then the thunderstorms are back out here, a bit bigger during the day. They'll be much smaller when they get towards us. Lots of gusty winds. That's what these tight lines together mean, these isobars when they're close to each other. And distinctly, you can see where the warm front is. The low's back here, wraps around to a cold front, which is way back out in Missouri. This is this afternoon. And then the warm front comes out extended from that. And you can see it there. And it runs out and down towards the south. And it goes through pretty quickly on us, an hour or two, and it's gone, right? And then the front comes through. There's a chance of scattered showers off and on. And then there's a little line of thunderstorms right there around 2 in the morning. 1 or 2 in the morning. And remember, the strong gusty winds will be involved with that too. And then some sprinkles off and on and light showers tomorrow in the morning, and trying to clear out for a while before the next system starts to approach us and gets closer to us on Saturday. And this has been a mixed bag. One time it shows it that it's not going to be much, and another time like this shows it a little thicker. These 6 hourly runs, these 12Z, 18Z, that kind of thing, 00Z, and 6Z run much longer. So let's look and see what the new shorter range model shows on the precipitation. Here we are. See how close it gets with the afternoon. You see the warm front coming up. 19Z. All right. So that's 2 o'clock. There's 3 o'clock. It's right on our doorstep. 4 o'clock, it's on top of us, and 5 o'clock, it's past us. And there's some pretty good dark greens in here. So it's looking like the showers are going to stay together. And occasionally you could get an isolated lightning strike out of this kind of thing. But generally speaking, we're just talking showers out of that. And then the system starts to approach, and the model hasn't finished much more than that at this point. Let's go to the convective side real quick and see if there is any lightning in there. Um, doesn't look like it. Looks like all the lightning is going to be back out west. So as the warm front comes through, it doesn't really give us much of a chance for lightning. Although right there, 22Z, that's about 5 o'clock, maybe north of us, where it gets closer to the lake, it picks up a little bit. There's some chances for some lightning. So that's very, very isolated this afternoon. This will be better. We'll go back to the 12Z run and show you where the lightning is this evening. See, there's a little patch of lightning there too. So the warm front may have a thunderstorm in it, but very small, it looks like. And then there you go. The grays showing the potential for lightning with a scattered shower early on in the system, but really look for the line coming through later, right there around 5, 6Z. And you kind of see where it kind of takes a blank there, but right there at that point is 1 or 2 in the morning, and there's your chance for some lightning and thunder. Not sure why it's running like that. It didn't do that earlier, but there you go on that front. Let's take a quick look at the forecast for the next few days. Really here, let's look at the temperatures real quick locally. Here's the warmth. Then tomorrow during the day, temperatures just start to fall off. We're back into the 40s. Lafayette is right here under that 42 at the moment. And then you start to see some of the colder air pop in, and then it rebounds during the day, but only back up into the mid 40s. So on Saturday, and then the colder air comes in on Sunday behind that next system. Now, what does the NAM think about that precipitation in there? Let's see here. It shows a little bit more of the snow potential, and it's been mixed too. This is a little lighter than the models from yesterday. Yesterday, it showed it a little stronger. Just shows some scattered stuff coming through us on Saturday. But we'll have to keep an eye on Saturday. That'll develop and get better in the model over the next 24 hours too. So a lot of different weather going on there. But the windiness, let's go back to the winds real quick because I told you about the winds and how bad they were going to be. Let's pinpoint the 14Z and see what it says for the gusty winds. So this is the 14Z model. It's coming out right now. It's about half done, a little more than half, and shows just 20-mile-an-hour winds to 30-mile-an-hour winds, gusting today, this morning, then starting to pick up. And as the warm front gets closer and closer, then we get up to near 30. Here we are. Remember, that's 30. I can see a 31 around us, 32 in a couple spots, and that's knots, 33 knots. So you're pushing almost 40 miles an hour with your gusts with a sustained wind at 20 to 25. And that is by 3 o'clock this afternoon when the warm front comes through. Then it kind of weakens just a little bit, and then the front comes in. See how we dropped to like 19 here for your gusts? That's about 20 to 25 miles an hour in that range. Those are knots that's showing on this chart. You start to see the winds out towards our west start to approach with the frontal system, and there'll be some strong gusty winds in front of it, which are helping to pull up the warm air and keep it in our local area. And then it goes to 25, and then this model starts to stop. All right, like there. Let's see what the 15Z or the 13Z showed, and it shows the pocket. There's even a pocket right here, right around 50 knots, which is like 60 miles an hour. Looks like that is just directly west of Lafayette, out towards Rantoul, that area. And then that moves in. There you go. The real strong gusty winds at 10 o'clock tonight. These winds are in the area of 46 knots, which is about 50 to 55 miles an hour. There's a pocket back out to the west of 57 to 60 knots. So now you're talking 60 to 65 miles an hour. It stays with us for a while. And then there should be another little batch come through later. This one doesn't go out far enough to show us that. You go to the 12Z. All right. There's the 12Z shows it. And then it shows another second round tomorrow morning of another 40 knot winds and in pockets of 40 to 45 in knots, which is 50 to 55 miles an hour. So I expect some kind of wind advisory for this evening into the morning hours. And then again tomorrow morning. So they may just blanket it as a big one until like noon tomorrow, something like that. That's a lot of what the National Weather Service likes to do. And matter of fact, let's go there real quick. Haven't been there in a while. See if I can see if they put anything out for us. Dun, dun. Indianapolis, nothing yet for hazards and watches and warnings for them has come out of the National Weather Service. So we'll keep an eye on that one too as we go through the day and over the next couple of hours on the show. It's 48 degrees out there right now, and we're heading towards 60. Heading towards 60. 60 degrees in January. Does happen. Happens a lot more than you think it does, but it's something that we'll just have to get by, right? Every January when something like this happens, we go, "Whoa, look at how warm it is," and we go, "Yeah, well, it's done this before." And when it was -6 last month, everybody was like, "Whoa, my gosh, hasn't been this cold in a while." Well, that happens every winter too. So, all right, that's the old skeptical weatherman saying you're not paying attention. All right, so what are we going to get into now? Let's go back to the lady who got shot since it's such a big deal. Is anybody chatting about it yet? Nope, nobody's in the chat yet. So get in there if you get a chance, and we'll talk about the lady who got shot and what happened there. And I'm going to go to the story about what happened. Okay, here I am. I'm seeing the furious protesters clash with riot cops after ICE shot dead 37-year-old lady. Renee Nicole Good is the lady who passed. And they're just showing videos of them kind of tussling with the police. At least right now, it doesn't look like anything terrible. There's a story on the foul-mouthed mayor who dropped the F-bomb like 3 times during his interview. It's one thing to be upset. It's another thing to act like an idiot too. I can understand him being upset if that's what he thinks, but so let's see. When we start looking at it of what's happening there, what happened in that, if you've seen the videos, I'm not sure if you have or haven't. Some of you probably have, some of you haven't. The video, the clearest one shows an officer in front of the vehicle, 2 approaching from the left and 1 to the right. The woman, her window's down, she's yelling at somebody, or she's talking with them. We can't tell because we can't hear anything. The officers are coming to her, try to go to her door. She puts it in reverse. I don't know what's said to her, what she says to them. We don't know any of that. And then she jams it into forward, and she starts quickly moving forward. And the cop in front, who's right in front, pulls out his gun and shoots through the window and kills her. Okay, so that's how it developed yesterday during the day. And it seems like this is split right down the middle. You either think the ICE cop was awful and that he never should have done that, or you think he was okay because the vehicle is considered a weapon, and it is. And this has happened before, where cops have defended themselves by shooting through the window. So my first thought in my mind is that's probably what's going to happen here, but we don't know what's said. We don't know what the ICE agents said when they walked up to the window. Was there a confrontation before this? None of that's come out. That's why you shouldn't wait 24 to 48 hours before you make a decision. My first look at it says the police probably was right, but I don't know what happened before that. So that might change my mind. Others of you look at it and go, nope, no matter what, that's a murder. Okay, well, let's wait and see what happens before we make that full decision on that. So what happens? Jimmy Kimmel comes out last night and he calls Trump a maniac after the president defended the ICE officer who shot the woman dead in Minneapolis. Okay. But at least half the country thinks that. Probably more than half the country thinks that. So Jimmy Kimmel's trying to step in again. I'm sure the president's going to come out and say something about Jimmy Kimmel today, blah, 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 blah. And then there'll be harassment, but they'll forget that Jimmy said something about him being a maniac and all this other stuff. Stephen A. Smith was on there. He talked a little bit about it. And I like Stephen A. Smith for several reasons. First off, he is liberal, but he is open-minded and he sees things as he sees them, right? And Stephen A. Smith says the ICE agent who shot the woman dead in Minnesota is completely justified. And they're talking about Stephen A. Smith running for president on the left, on the liberal side, on the Democratic side. He added, however, that if the agent had enough time to step out of the way, which he appeared to, he should have shot the tires out instead of taking aim at Good herself. Like I said, I don't know how close he was to the car. My first thought was I would have probably tried to jump out of the way. But that's just my first thought when I looked at the video. If you're in it, how do you know that? How do you know what's going on? What do you know all the details? from the video, it looks like he's justified in what he did, and Stephen A. Smith says that. And again, he could be the Democratic runner for president. People keep trying to push him to do that. I don't think he's going to. He's a sports guy, but you never know, right? You never know. Tim Walz, the going out governor of Minnesota, he said ICE was contaminating the crime scene. There's videos everywhere of everything. I don't know how much you're going to contaminate anything, and that he killed Heard, the agent did. So we'll have to see about that. So it's very obvious that it's breaking down the middle again, blue and right, or red, excuse me. So the right versus the left, or the left versus the right. Although at this time, it seems like most people are leaning towards the conservative side, which says he was probably justified in the shooting. That doesn't mean they're right. That just means it seems like right now, as I look at all this information, that's what's happening. That they're actually that he was justified being in front of the vehicle to defend himself and it's been proven in court that that is something he can do. So that's how it works like that. And the videos, you got to go check them out yourself. There's like 5 different views, but there's one view that shows pretty much all the officers. Although you got to kind of slow it down to make sure you know that that's the guy in front. And you see him pull out the gun as she floors it. What looks like she's flooring it going forward, and we don't know why that is. And we'll have to figure out what's happening with her and what, if anything, was said. In my mind, there's nothing you can say that can trigger someone to shoot someone, but an action like that is something that could trigger someone to shoot someone. The only way you could shoot someone, especially someone without a weapon, is if they're threatening to kill you and they have a weapon. That's basically it, right? But the car is considered a weapon. I absolutely understand that. If he feared he was going to get run over, he took it into his own hands, and it has happened before. So that's it for the lady. Maybe we'll get back to it again next hour. A lot of different stuff going on with that. Wait 24 hours, wait 48 hours. Let's see what else other videos come out and audio come out before you make your full decision on that. All right. And remember, a lot of the stuff out there is not detailed, and people are just making their own opinions. If you go to X, you'll find all kinds of information about different things, and people will be saying anything you can, almost anything you can think of is being thrown out there by both sides, right? So it's just a situation that none of us would like to have gotten into. All right, let's move to the tankers and what happened, and Crink and Greenland and all the different situations. We talked about Maduro yesterday and the day before. We took him over the weekend, right? And that there were tentacles and there were reasons that's going to affect a lot of different things. And that's why Trump made this decision. Not just because he was a narco-terrorist and he was labeled that. Not just because there was a bounty on his head. And that bounty was increased by President Biden. He did that to help people here in America. That's one of the things. We got a problem with the drugs coming in from down there. And he was part of that. So they went and got him for that. He also stole an election there. And when we talk stole, he lost by 35%, and he never gave up his power. Okay. That helped. The people in Venezuela are getting much better. Hopefully soon we'll have better politicians to run their country, a country that was one of the richest in the world just 20, 30 years ago, and now is in the dumpster. And they make like $200 a month there, and everything is very, very expensive. People can't even afford to live in places because they only make $200 a month. So, and expenses are much, much higher. Rent is even higher than that in a lot of places. So Venezuelans will be better off. We got to worry a little bit about the vice president took over, and she tried to show that she has the big pants and run the military out there and the police out there. But in reality, she said she was going to help the United States. And they are talking about there actually being places to vote within 18 months, and they would try to have an election of some type. So we'll have to see how that goes. The lady who won the actual last election, she may be in the bid there to take over as the new president, hopefully within the next 18 months. And they're also hoping to have all the oil and up and ready and running within 18 months too. Some of which we will get in the United States, the president says, but generally speaking, Venezuela is going to take that all over. The companies who lost all their stuff when the communists took over the country and kicked the United States out, not sure how that's going to work with them. There may be some court battles on that they say that they own that stuff and they had it before. And now that the president's gone, they should get it back. We'll have to see how that goes. But we also captured 2 tankers who had oil. One was coming into Venezuela, one was going away. One we followed all the way across the Atlantic and took it, and our military went in there and just boarded the ships. I don't think there was any firefights or anything like that because most of the guys on the ships aren't carrying anything like that. Most of them, anyway, unless they're heading through really bad places like over by Somalia and stuff where they had to worry about pirates everywhere. So his Trump's week-long blitz, it sparked panic at NATO, that's for sure. All of them are panicked. Oh, this is the end of the world. If he's going to do this, Venezuela, and then he's going to try to take over Greenland, and he's going to run troops in there and the fighting. He's not going to do that. He's just not going to do. We're going to buy the place if we're going to do anything. But that panicked everybody in NATO. He's got apparently a 33-page plan for the new world, how it's supposed to look, which us in our hemisphere, which would be North America and South America, is our place. And we kind of stay out of everyone else's business. And we just worry about our hemisphere as much. And we only get into that if we have to. But we don't speak softly. We speak strongly under Trump, and we carry a big stick. So he speaks strong in everything he does. And he does it for the United States. And in almost every single case, he gets what he wants. So this is a negotiating tactics that he's used for decades and decades, and they work as the president. You notice no one's firing shots at us. Russia just stomped their feet and cried about this, but taking the tankers. NATO, all of Europe is just stomping their feet, but they're not doing anything about it. They're saying it'll fall apart if he does anything more. It won't fall apart. They won't have any problems. He's playing it. He's pushing China. He's pushing Russia. He's pushing Iran, trying to make them fall off their pedestals that they think they're on as they're trying to take over with the CRINK. CRINK, remember, that's the new one I heard yesterday if you were with us earlier. And that's China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea as an axis, not an ally. Trump's running around trying to make allies everywhere. You notice the Middle East is pretty calm right now. Yes, Syria's got their infighting for their country, but all the countries are talking to each other. A lot of them are now, and they're all starting to become buddy-buddy a little bit. I'm sure, when it comes to the religious side, they don't like each other, but generally speaking, as the countries, they're talking to each other. That's what the accords were all about that he's got going there. At least they're closer to on our side than they were, 3 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago, where we just ran in and tried to take everything over all the time. We're not trying to do that anymore. We're carrying the big stick and we're talking about it, but we're willing to let them have themselves, work themselves together. Saudi Arabia should be working with the UAE or with whoever to stop whatever Iran's doing. And we would rather them do that themselves than us doing it. And he's been working at trying to do that and trying to get that taken care of. And it looks like they are moving that direction in the Middle East as they're all starting to slowly come together a little bit. So that's one of those things. So then there was a chart that I ran across that talked about the countries in the hemisphere or that are controlled by what happened from Maduro the other day. Let me go see if I can show it to you here. All right, there it is. All right, so as you look at the map, I'm colorblind. It says already targeted. That's got to be Venezuela and Iran. Okay, so that must be green, I guess. And then potential targets are the other ones, which is Greenland, Canada, Mexico, Panama, and Colombia, right? And these are all things that are in our hemisphere that are affected, and we're trying to affect Iran to help with the Middle East there over there too. And we've already went in and got Maduro, right? We did that, and last year we've fired some stuff into the nuclear facilities in Iran. And now Iran's having protests and all these things. It looks like their country's falling apart. We may be in to help them there too with the people there. But these are the countries, and I'm going to go to the bottom first, that are on this chart that were on that map. Let's start with Canada. All right. Here's what I heard. Did you know that Mark Carney, who's now the Canadian, is the prime minister, I believe he is, was the guy who ran the money for the WEF, for the New World Order and the people who were trying to take over the world. Now he's taken over Canada, and he's kind of run roughshod over the Canadians there too. But Trump has referred to Canada as the 51st state of the U.S., which is funny. It is funny. It's not true, but it's funny, and everybody gets all messed up and all worried about that. He's ramped them up over rhetoric, over a trade war. However, there is no realistic chance that we're ever going to launch any kind of military action against Canada in any way, shape, or form. But look how the politicians get all run up about it, right? Crazy, crazy. Moving over to Panama. Well, we went into Panama. We didn't go in there. We talked with the president there. China was controlling the Panama Canal, and we got it switched to where we're doing it now, right? So Trump has previously vowed to take back the Panama Canal, but he's meaning basically just control of it, not taking over Panama itself, warning that U.S. troops could intervene if the strategically vital waterway is not returned. That has to be open. The Suez Canal has to be opened, and of course, the Panama Canal have to be open so trade and movement can continue along our oceans, right? Panama's president said he could not accept military bases or defense sites in the country, which I kind of understand. But right along the Panama Canal, I think he'll probably soften and give in on that. So you notice there's 1 star for a chance of any kind of actual activity there. But us running troops in just to make sure everything stays open in the Panama Canal, sure, that might happen. That's a strong possibility, really. That side might be up to near 4, but actually attacking Panama for any reason, yeah, little to no chance that that's actually going to happen. Let's move up to Greenland. You notice there's 1 star on here, and I've been telling you for 2 days, folks, we're going to buy the thing. Stop panicking over this. We're not going to send troops in there and take over Greenland. I do not believe that at all. But he's insisted America needs Greenland for national security, and that got everybody in an uproar, right? Wait 24 to 48 hours. Let's see what happens. There are plenty of natural resources there. It does officially somehow belong to Denmark, even though it's closer to us, and it is a NATO ally. It says an attack could jeopardize the future of the security alliance. We're not attacking Greenland. That's why it's 1 star. We're not going to do that. We're going to buy it, or we're gonna work it out. You always come in strong, right? You come in strong, tell them you're going to do all these things, and then you get something else. And my Democrat friends and liberal friends, you are great at that. You have been doing it for the 40 years I've been paying attention to politics. You come in and say, I want this, this, and this. And you get this down here, this, and this, but that's a movement towards the other, right? That is exactly what we're doing with Greenland. That's how Trump uses, and that's how he pushes. That's how he bids with people. That's how he works it. Republicans, you don't do that at all. You just go, oh, woe is me. Maybe we need it. Maybe we don't, right? But the Democrats, they go, I want here. And then they get here, and they're okay with it. And then a few years later, they try to go here, and they get a little more. And that's how you do it, right? Well, that's what Trump is basically doing everywhere. He's throwing out all these big things, kind of scaring people a little bit. Well, they're getting scared on their own. And then nothing really happens of it. He kind of goes out and he talks with them. And before you know it, we're going to have 5 bases around the continent. We might have companies there. We might actually buy Greenland. That would be great for Denmark. Denmark's a small country. It's not that big. There's only 60,000 people in Greenland all over it. And from what I understand, like 75% of them are fine with going with the United States. But we only see the news about the other 25%, don't we? So very low chance that we're ever going to send troops in there to actually attack Greenland. But we will end up with some bases there. I'm pretty positive on that point, too. Remember yesterday I told you Cuba was going to be the first peg that falls off the dominoes, right? So Cuba said 32 of its officers were killed in the U.S. operation in Venezuela as they protected Maduro. So they had troops there helping with Venezuela because that was part of the give and take with Venezuela, where Cuba doesn't have a lot of money to buy oil, but they can give people and they can do things. And so they were helping Venezuela in different ways, and that was one of them. So that Cuba was getting all of their oil from Venezuela. So where are they going to go when they run out here soon? We'll have to figure that one out. And Cuba's going to have to come to the table, that's for sure. So they had 32 officers killed there. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said if he lived in the capital city of Havana and worked in government, he would be concerned. Again, kind of a scare tactic. But the U.S. has little to gain from intervention, and Trump has stated it looks like it's ready to fall on its own already, and that's probably what we're going to do. We're just going to let it fall, and when they need help, we're going to come in and we're going to do whatever we can to help them, try to get them more on a democratic type of whole politics and world instead of communist view that they've been in for 50 years, 60, 65 years now, since way back when that Cuba fell. And so we're talking like 1960. So it's 65 years already at this point. They're going to fall on their own. And I think that is a great thing for the Cuban people to get somebody else to take over and try to get that Cuba. None of us have seen. It's in the Caribbean. It's beautiful. Can you imagine the tourism in Cuba once they open that place up? If it's an easy hop from the United States for people to go down there, I could see that very easily. This could be really good for Cuba, even though the country may fall apart. The Cubans themselves could really gain in this. That's what I could see as that. The country may fall apart politically, government wise, and the communism may be pushed out, and then they become more democratic and like us, and that'll be a positive for all the people there. How about Colombia? Colombia is right next door to Venezuela. Gustavo Petro Urrego has been seen on TV telling President Trump, come get me. Come get me, you know? So Trump says the guy's a sick man and he likes selling cocaine to America, which is true, apparently. He's always getting a cut somewhere, just like Maduro was, something he's involved in it. You notice it has 2 stars on here. So now our likelihood is going up a little bit that we might do something. The U.S. president said carrying out a similar operation there as the one that took out Maduro sounds good to him, right? While clearly vulnerable, Colombia is of lesser strategic significance. So Venezuela's got more oil. Colombia's really only pouring the drugs in, and we're probably going to do something to stop some of that there, but we're not probably going to go in and take the president. But it's a little bit more higher on the scale of things to keep an eye on is Colombia. And if they had a little more, we probably would try to get them so that their country can have what they want. Remember, Venezuela, in the long run, we would like them to become a democratic country where people have their own rights to do as they want, not what the government wants them to do. And that would be the same in Colombia. We would love that to happen. Cuba, all these countries to be on their own where the people guide what's happening, like the United States gets most of the time, regardless of which side of the political aisle you want. One side is guiding our country. Mexico, lots of problems in Mexico with the cartels, right? Trump has said something's going to have to be done with Mexico. Officially, the U.S. president has asked his Mexican counterpart, Claudia Sheinbaum, if she wants U.S. military help in rooting out drug cartels. And of course, she said no. She's criticized U.S. military action against Venezuela as a violation of the United States charters. And my guess is, or in the United Nations charters, my guess is in back talks, she's been okay with it at times, probably, if she knows no one is finding out about it. But eventually, we might be in along the border and trying to stop some of the cartels, which are bringing in the rest of the drugs, right? Which are coming in from different places. So that's a 2 on there for that. Are we ever going to try to take over Mexico or Colombia? No, none of these are none. We're just trying to get rid of the regimes, which is a bad thing in my mind. But most of these people did not vote for these regimes. They voted for something else and they just don't have it. And so we're trying to help them out. Okay, let's move up to Iran. Well, first off, let's move over to Venezuela, which was a 4, right? And we already did that. We already went in and got Maduro. We already went in and stopped him. President said he took action to prevent drug trafficking, to utilize the country's vast natural resources, and to punish the country for sending migrants to the U.S., right? So we already did that. That triggered all this other stuff. Iran is next on this box. Likelihood of further U.S. action in Iran. Trump attacked 3 nuclear facilities back in June last year. Remember that? Its wave was a deadly protest have swept through the country in the last week, sparked by economic slump in Iran. They have something like 56% on the everything moving up in price. What's the wording on that? Somebody got that? Chat that with me real quick. Let me know what it is. Like, why can't I remember what it is? Inflation. There we go. I got it. 56% inflation. How? We were screaming at 9%. Remember under Biden, 9%? And when it was 7, he said it was great. And we were still screaming. Now it's down to 2.5 to 3 to 3.5, which is much, much better and closer to what their target is. And people are still screaming at that. They're at 56%. I mean, we're talking like the Weimar province back in the World War I and II area time frame where $1 million bought you nothing, bought you a cheese sandwich, right? That's kind of where Iran is heading at this point. And the Iranian government says they're going to give everybody $7 a month to help them out. Okay, I know that's not good. $7 a month. So action in Iran is a strong possibility. Again, same thing, regime change there, but we would love for the other countries to help the people in Iran if possible. Saudi Arabia, any of the other UAE, who else is there? All the countries around them to go help the people of Iran themselves instead of us. But we are prepared to do that as we have been sending aircraft over there for a month now. into England, into Germany, and over to Israel and different places. We've been sending tankers and fighters in different places. Italy there's a big base in Italy too. So those are places where we've been sending things, so we're close by to do whatever we need to do. Of course, it's an 18-hour flight for the B-2s to get across, but that's something that could be done. They might be in the air right now, getting ready to bomb something. Who knows? But right now, it seems like we're sitting back. We've got it all set up, and they're falling apart on their own too. So that's exactly probably what you're going to see in Cuba, right? Iran is falling apart because of the economic problems. Cuba is going to fall apart because of its economic problems. And Venezuela is already falling apart because of its economic problems. So, and all of these hinder and hurt the people of these countries. And the people of these countries are good people, just like you and me. Regardless of our differences, we're all good people pretty much. We wouldn't, there's always a 10% of everything. 10% of everything's going to be bad. Doesn't matter what it is. 10% of the police might be bad. 10% of Marine Corps might be bad. 10% of some firm downtown might be bad, right? There's still people that are going to be on the fringes that are going to be bad, but the vast majority of us are very good people and just want to be left alone. Let us go about our business and don't harm anybody, right? Those are the exciting things we would like to have and see happen. Uh, so that kind of shows you the map. Go back down to the map real quick. But you see a lot of it's in our hemisphere. Iran was thrown on here because we've already done something, and there's a lot of activity going on there right now with the people. And every one of these cases, the people are going to win out, right? Even the people in Mexico are going to win out if we can help slide and get rid of some of the cartels along the border of Mexico and stop some of the drugs that are coming into our country. And Greenland, there's resources there, but we really want bases to kind of stop. It's kind of like a buffer. And people won't like this, but that's what Putin said he was trying to do with Ukraine. He wants a buffer between NATO and him. If you made Ukraine straight into NATO, which is right here, here's Ukraine, um, NATO would have been on his doorstep. He didn't want that. Well, we would like Greenland to kind of have a buffer between Russia and Russia and China have ideas of getting the resources out of Greenland too. So regardless of whether we like it or not, this is a race. This is a race to see what's going to happen, and we're the first ones stepping up, saying, "Hey, we're going to take Greenland." Probably not buy that. We're probably going to buy it from Denmark, and I'm sure behind the line somewhere, President Trump has already called Denmark and talked to them. Might have even been a month or two ago. Might have been a while back, but he's taking care of business there, at least on that front. So that's what you're seeing on the front of what happened from Maduro, right? That's just one of the things there. Going back to the Daily Mail, that was what sparked that. And their headline on there is about the woman who got killed. Violence grips Minneapolis as furious protesters clash with riot cops. And then you got a little bit of video that shows there. When you click on it, you'll get a much longer video, and you'll be able to see what's happening. Right there, it doesn't look too bad. They're just kind of bouncing around each other and struggling with everything. And it doesn't look terrible, at least it's to me. But generally speaking, rioting if you look at the picture down the bottom right, everybody looks calm. Everybody's there. That's great. Protest. Do your protest. We don't want to do this where we're starting to argue with each other and fight with each other, trying to run over cops if that's what was happening, and then getting mad at everybody, right? Because this is exactly what happens every time. And you are not going to hear this from your left-leaning people, but 90% of the time, it's your left-leaning people who are doing this. It's not your right side. It's your Republicans. It's your Democrats that are doing this. And if anybody tells you different, they're just flat out lying to you. They are. Regardless of the namesake and what they've told everybody from the media that how bad the Republicans are, this kind of thing is always, 90% of the time, is done by Democrats. Which one wasn't? Of course, January 6th wasn't. So that one's used as the moniker of how Republicans are, but they forget about all the protests over George Floyd. Now we got protests here. We got protests anytime Trump makes any kind of decision. There's protests in the streets. I don't know if you're tired about it yet, but you ought to be. Just let him go through his last 3 years, get it over with, and we'll move on to JD Vance, or maybe we'll go over to the left-leaning side and we'll change the direction again. Who knows? All right. Maybe Stephen A. Smith does become the president of the United States. for me, that's not a bad deal. I would be willing to vote for Stephen A. Smith because I think he's closer to the middle if he's on the left. If and That's the way it is. Um, I was kind of on the base on Obama. I could have gone either direction with him. I think I leaned a little bit more to the right. It just felt like he wasn't middle enough for me. And afterwards, we found out he wasn't. He wasn't even close to the middle of the pack when it comes to being Democratic or Republican. So there you go. Here's the exclusive from the Daily Mail. Wife who brought ICE shooting victim Renee Nicole Good to Minneapolis. Protest is named as Handy Woman 40 as depths of couples' disdain for Trump is revealed. Uh-oh. Everything's online, guys. You're going to find out what's happening. Everything's online. Rebecca Good, 40, was filmed screaming as spouse Renee Nicole. Macklin Good, 37, died after being shot 3 times Wednesday afternoon for ignoring ICE agents' demands to get out of her car. Now, the Daily Mail has uncovered the couple's eye-catching past and the extreme move they took to protest the re-election of Donald Trump. So, and I think that's her in the video sitting with her dog. I think I saw her. So she must have been right there. Maybe that's at her home, but maybe she was in the vicinity. But she told her to go down there. I don't know whether she told her to actually do it, but here's some more exclusives over here in this article. Family member says woman killed while driving into ICE agents should have minded her own business. That's from her own family. But as another calls it murder. See how split it is? Even in the family of the woman who died, they're split. So it's going to be a few days. It's going to be a while before the protests go down. It's the winter, so there'll be less people. Less people go out there in the winter when they protest. If it was the dead of summer, it'd probably be pretty bad. And so that AOC's in here. There's all kinds of articles, all right? All kinds of articles that are out and about there that you can see and you can talk about on the Daily Mail. Just one of those that I like to look at all the time and that I use. Got a lot of stuff weather-wise where I go to the College of DuPage. So a lot of you know about that. Use X once in a while. We talk about that on X and what's going on there. You know, a lot of times the news pops up on X before it pops up anywhere, but you definitely got to take it with a grain of salt because immediately after something happens, probably half of it is just people trying to get their point across of something and they're making up stuff. So we see it in the media consistently, and you see it like in places like X where you actually get the news quicker than you do a lot of places because people come out with it. So there you go. Here's an interesting remark from Elon Musk. France banned mail-in voting in 1975. Mexico banned mail-in voting in 1992, and Belgium banned mail-in voting in 2018. What's that tell you? They know that mail-in voting makes fraud trivial, right? And that's what we did in the United States. Whether the election was stolen in 2020 is hard to say. Man, there's a lot of stuff coming out though now, huh? When are they going to release all that? We'll have to see what happens with that. What else is going on in the world? We hit some pretty good stuff so far. Locally, let's see what we can find out a little bit more locally. Purdue's had some changes. They're going through some changes, some things that are happening there. There's some kind of court ruling on immunity, and it's going to affect the Lafayette case. A U.S. appeals court decision allows a lawsuit by former Tippecanoe County Sheriff's Lieutenant Randy Martin to proceed forward, that they're going to do that. The case involves claims against the sheriff and prosecutors denying their immunity bids. So that's in the news. It stems from internal disputes within the Tippecanoe County Sheriff's Office, and this ruling could impact local law enforcement accountability in Indiana. Stories on JC Online. You can find it there pretty easily. So that's a court ruling that about immunity that's gotten past the appeals court. I don't know. Nowadays, it seems like everything goes through the Supreme Court, anything of importance. I'm not sure if that's big enough importance, but it is big enough importance here in Lafayette. That's for sure. WL5 is doing something new. Anchor Sierra Carpenter previews her events for the weekend of January 9th, 2026. It's going to include things like family-friendly options, cultural events to kick off the new year. She's going to have video highlights and community activities, entertainment, and local happenings in Lafayette. You know what she's going to have on there? She's going to have Let's Talk Lafayette on there. That's what she's going to have. Let's hope that happens. And she's going to be aimed at helping residents plan their weekends with local flair. So that's going to be a new thing coming up on WLFI, or if she's done it in the past, she's making some changes, one or the other. I'm not sure which one that looks there. And here's a big one. I think this is important too. First off, yesterday we talked about some gang activity in Lafayette. Gangs generally are your younger people, right? You're talking 15 to 20 a lot of times with these, maybe even younger. At times, people get involved in gangs. And you would think, oh, Lafayette doesn't have gangs. We don't have that here. But we have influence from Chicago and we have influence from Indianapolis. And between the two, we're in the center point. I've heard of things like drops that happen in Lafayette from one gang in Chicago to another gang in Indianapolis. I've heard that they're starting to influence the local area so they can control what's going on. And obviously that is happening because they arrested some kind of gang member yesterday over some things he had said on the internet. And I believe he probably threatened to kill somebody. That's how you get arrested doing that. But we're starting to see this activity get into our juvenile centers because, and into our juveniles, generally younger than 18, and it's on the rise. So Lafayette's starting to plan. They're planning a 30,000 square foot facility to combat rising juvenile crime. The center will emphasize educational and mental health programs for our youth. Okay. So they're starting to try to work it out for the youth. It's designed to reduce offenses through rehabilitation rather than punishment. And I tend to agree. I kind of like, especially with the younger kids. But I also agree that rehabilitation is not being taken seriously enough in our prisons. So something to think about there, because the vast majority of guys go right back into prison when they come out. So what are they getting out of it? You can put them in prison, but you need to rehabilitate more than what they're doing, I think. And this is the one big thing for the 30,000 square foot facility is for our juveniles, right? So local officials hope it addresses a recent surge in youth related, basically, incidents that have been happening and have been on the increase here in Tippecanoe County. We've been talking about the fatal accident that happened, the oddity on Monday with the lady. She was from Tippecanoe County. She died in a crash investigated by the authorities, and the incident occurred Monday morning. It highlights ongoing road safety, though, concerns. It seems like it was slippery. Maybe that had something to do with it. And local police are urging drivers to exercise caution amid winter conditions. You should do that no matter what. Anytime there's potential for some ice or snow out there on the roads, slow down a little bit if you need to, and that's what you need to do. Klingerman, I got it. Klingerman named chief of staff to Purdue president. Cool. Trent Klingerman returns to Purdue as chief of staff. That happened on the 5th. Here it is, the 8th, and he will support university leadership and strategic initiatives. Klingerman's background includes prior roles at Purdue, so he already knows the place. That's good. He's going to bring some familiarity to it. He'll be able to help out there. He knows what's going on in a lot of places. And this appointment aims to strengthen administrative operations. So there you go. They're adding someone, and that's at Purdue. I got a bunch of Purdue stuff here this morning. We talked about the Purdue mandating AI competency for all 44,000 students, raising key questions, of course. How are you going to do that? How are you going to implement it? How's it going to be into the curriculum? What does it do to the workforce preparation of that? But Purdue apparently is the first U.S. university to impose such a requirement that you are going to have to mandate AI competency to the students. There's debates focusing on accessibility and ethical AI use, that's for sure. It's obvious that there are so many great things that can come from AI, but there's a lot of bad things too. Same thing happened with the internet. Remember how the internet took over, and now it's taken over our lives. A lot of people sit in front of their computers constantly, and it's a different lifestyle than what we had 40 years ago, where we had TVs then, but we got out more. Now it seems like, and I'm guilty of this too, sitting inside, especially when I don't feel good. I'm going to just stay inside. So I've kind of gotten into that routine myself, and I'd like to get out of it and get outside more and do more. But we'll see how that goes with the AI and the mandates for competency for all the students this coming fall, it looks like, and how the implement implications. There we go. Oh, that happened. I'll get it. You know that. There's a Purdue Your Path Wellness Program launch. The program officially launches this year, promoting health and wellness. It integrates resources across all kinds of web pages for the students and the staff support, focusing on improved physical, mental, and emotional well-being. The emotional one I'm really starting to hit on more and more as I've gotten older, and I realize how people go through things, as I see as a pastor, how people go through life, and how In one case, we think this, in another case, they think that, and you can see that just with the woman who got killed yesterday, with the tankers being there's people take sides right away, and emotionally, we get attached to these things, and we just will not let it drop. You could have someone burn something down in front of you, and one side will say they burned it down, the other one will say somebody else did it, right? And they won't let go of it. Just doesn't matter what it is. Everybody takes sides a lot of times. And what that does to us mentally is very strong and hurts us emotionally, hurts our well-being, makes it tough on everybody. So, this wellness program, though, is going to include insights for every stage of the Purdue journey and through people that are through it and going through it. So that's pretty cool because it's helping the students and the staff, helping them maybe get a little more healthy, trying to move around more and keep that mind strong too at that point too, right? So there's a newsletter out for Purdue from the Extension newsletter for January 2026, dated January 5th, and it provides local resources and updates. And I think you're going to find all that information in there, what we just talked about. It also includes things like event calendars and educational tips. It's going to talk about that healthy stuff. It talks about food, ag, anything Purdue in there. And so this Purdue Extension January 2026 newsletter is out, and you can find it at extension.purdue.education. There's a whole bunch of stuff after that, but go looking for it. And it emphasizes extension programs benefiting Greater Lafayette. So there you go. The Purdue Extension January calendar is coming out for the year and what we're going to see. So I told you there was a lot of Purdue stuff here again, you know. The staff speak out after Purdue switches to affirmed RX, doubling some medication costs. So the Purdue staff's concerns over their pharmacy switch and how much it's going to cost them they're starting to bring it forward to people. This impacts employees' health benefits and access, and part of a broader university administrative change there that they're doing. The calls for review of the decisions affects all kinds of people all over the campus. And there's a story on that in the Purdue Exponent if you want to look for that. So pretty cool there on that front. And Purdue, the campus itself, is starting to seek foreign faculty for marketing. Purdue claims inability to find U.S. candidates for $127,000 marketing professor roles. All right. So if you're in there, if you're a candidate, so they're going to go overseas. They can't find somebody. This sparks the debate on domestic talent and hiring practices. Involves Purdue's business school expansion. And it questions raised about salary competitiveness. So is 127,000 enough? Is that why you can't get somebody for the marketing on that? Are there just no capable candidates in the United States? If there's no capable candidates in the United States, go out of the country. That's what I say. You got to get the best person for the job, no matter where it is, and who it is. Unfortunately, for most of us, we don't want the cost of that to be involved there. So if someone from the United States wants 150, but they only want to give 127, that person's either taking $127,000 or they're going to move on to somebody else. So you may not get the best candidate sometimes when you set specific goals in there, like of 127. Now, I don't know. That's maybe overpaying. Maybe they're only supposed to get 90 and nobody knows about it. And they're going to give them a lot of money. But that's kind of way the point. Get the best person for the job. All right. Let's see. Purdue wins at 6 straight against Washington last night. They're now 14-1. And I'll cover that again in the next hour pretty good. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Back to some world and national stuff. So that was a lot of the local stuff we had going on there. And you can go to the Journal and Courier or WLFI, and you can find some of these stories on their headlines there. I'm going to pop over here so I can look at it. So like in the news, common food preservatives linked to cancer and type 2 diabetes is on the WFI channel. Oh, here's an interesting one. Lafayette Mayor Tony Rozworski reflects on city's progress during his 22nd year in office. Man, he has been there a long time too. He has. I think was I still at WLFI? I might have still been there when he became the mayor because I was there till 2003. So we were talking about the Clinton County Superior Court Judge Thomas Little files to become that. I think I talked about that way back on Monday or something, but there's a story there on that. Brendan Bright to run for Clinton County Sheriff. So there's some news from around the area too. I like this. I had never heard of Stranger Things until one of my friends from church, Billy, he told me about Stranger Things, and then I hear it's got an Indiana vibe to it, all to it. So I might have to go start and look and watching this show. We'll have to see what happens. You guys gotta text me or chat with me and let me know should I be watching this show or not. So that's what we got on that front with that one. Stranger Things is from Indiana. Huh? Yeah, that interests me there, right there. If it's from Indiana. Um, Here's a story. Expect the unexpected in the last jobs report of 2025. Now, I don't know what that means, whether that's negative or positive, but expect the unexpected. So on Friday, the Bureau of Labor Statistics will release the final jobs report for 2025. And economist estimates vary widely over what we should expect. The consensus estimates are for 55,000 jobs to have been added in December, a figure that's in line with year-to-date job growth, but slightly lower than November's gains of 64,000. But some economists say seasonal factors such as the holiday hiring peak could put December's monthly total somewhere near 105,000. Either way, the unemployment rate is expected to tick down to 4.5 after hitting a four-year high of 4.6. Remember, it was much higher than that when Biden was in, especially during his first couple of years. While data like that would be seemingly welcome indicator of labor market strength when the labor rate goes down, the true underlying momentum for job growth is likely much softer and has been much softer for some time now. So whether it's 55,000 or no, it's hard to say. Lopsided jobs gains for much of the past 12 months, extremely high uncertainty has been there. There's been dramatic shifts in the nation's immigration flows. And to a much lesser extent, companies testing the AI waters. Remember, I put the warning out already. AI is going to be taking over. It's going to take over in a lot of places. Anything involved with computers, and you work with computers, you better be ready to join in with AI and find a way to work with it. Otherwise, you're going to lose your job. And eventually, it's going to get down to the nuts and bolts. The nuts and bolts guys are the ones that are going to be okay. The guys who go out and fix things. But everything else may be taken over by AI in some way or form. So something to keep in mind, and that could affect our unemployment a lot in the next few years. AI is taking over a lot of different places. So unemployment could be affected by that. The worst of the slowdown could be behind us, though. That's what a lot of people say. Um, Depending on whether you like AI or not, or if you're even using it in your consideration. So that was a story that was on WLFI. You can go check that out if you want. They got the stories on the tanker in there too. They got their program on. Obviously, you can watch their program if you would like to, if you don't want to watch me anymore. But all kinds of stories on your local stories. And then you say, well, Brian, you were a WLFI guy. Why are you talking about him now? Nobody thinks that much. Well, WLFI, Star City, and the JC Online are our news in the local area. If we don't support them, they will fall apart, and then your news will come from Indianapolis, and you will see one story on Lafayette a day instead of 8 stories a day out of Lafayette that these organizations are coming up with and finding. Yes, they've changed things. Weather forecasters and meteorologists aren't there on staff. They're somewhere else doing it, but it's still not bad, right? Chad Evans might say a little different. We loved having him on there. Some of you liked me when I was on there years ago. It's nice to have that local guy there in town. Seipel, I talked to Seipel a month or two ago. You guys loved him too. So there, we like having the local guy. And so when we don't have that on there like we do now, people don't like that. But a lot of your stories are still local stories, and you will lose all of them if we lose WLFI, Star City, and or JC Online or JC Journal and Courier. So that's where your news is coming from. That's why I try to tell you, keep up with them, look at them, see what they got, be abreast of what's happening in your local community, and how are these things that we've been talking about today going to affect us. And that's what I want you to do, to get into the chat and talk about what you think about the lady that got killed, maybe what you think about the tankers. What about Maduro getting captured? What about a new facility for the youth to try to help with community corrections and the facilities there to help with our juveniles in the county? What about a new facility being built? What about the new changes at Purdue? How about the Purdue basketball game win last night? What are the ladies going to do? How's the campus doing? The number one rated engineering campus in the country, or college in the country. You call it however you want it. What do you think about those things? I want those things to be you. This show's supposed to be for you. I will guide you along. I will give you all kinds of opinion, and some of them are stupid, and some of them are great, and some of them you'll disagree with, and some of them you'll love, and you'll take it to your friends. But the reality is, I would like you to chat with me on the chat that's on here on YouTube Live. Eventually, we're going to have some phone lines in here or something. We'll figure that out. I don't know how to do this. If you know it, chat with me. Send me an email. You can send me an email at let's talk Lafayette live.gmail or at gmail.com. All right. I kept it really simple. I'm not spending a lot of money on any of this. There's no ads. It's got to grow over a time period. So far, it's real slow. That's what you would expect. If you're watching now, go ahead and tell people about it. And don't be afraid to chat with me and talk with me about it. All right. Right now, nobody's in the chat at the moment. But yesterday we had a couple people. The day before we had another day. We had 2 people. And on Monday we had 1. So there's people in here. There's people in the community that want to know what's going on. All right. And this is their opportunity to talk about that. We can talk about Purdue. We can talk about, the lady who passed away in the car accident on Monday and under weird circumstances, skidding on the road and over a ditch, that kind of thing. Maybe you have an opinion on it, and you'll be able to voice it here, and I'll try to answer the questions and get your opinion out there via the chat right now. And a lot of shows just do that, just chat. They don't even show me. They just put a picture up and they just talk. Well, I'm going to show pictures and show you some things. You'll see me, and hopefully the chat I'll be able to see when you chat with me, and we'll be able to talk a little bit more about it. You're going to get an in-depth look at weather here every hour. I'm going to go into it pretty deeply. The first hour, I was in it for a half an hour. I talked about weather. Second hour is about 15 minutes. I'm going to get ready to do that again here shortly. Another 10 or 15 minutes. We'll look at the models. We'll look where everything's at. We'll talk about what the chances are of effects for you, because I'm a meteorologist. Semi-retired. Meteorologists never retire. They are semi-retired because as soon as you find out they were a meteorologist, you ask them what the weather is. So it never really gets out of our blood, I say, so to speak. One of those things. And I love sports. I talked a lot of sports too. I talked about the basketball game big time in the first hour, and I'll cover that again here in the second hour, along with those main stories with a lot of local flair, if we can do that. All right. So that's what we like to do. So let's get into the weather. Let's change over to the weather real quick. There we go. All right, it's 52 degrees. So the temperature has risen now. We were, I think, at 42 a couple hours ago. Saying it's going to top out at 57 today, but like 11 o'clock tonight, it's going to be 60, or it's going to be real close to that. All right. So the temperature is going to be on the rise throughout the day today as an approaching system comes in and brings us a chance of rain. Late this afternoon, like 3 to 5 o'clock, the warm front tries to push through. Could be some showers there, isolated chance for a thunder shower. And that's going to be hit and miss. There might be a little line that moves through, or there might be, spots where just 10 miles from you, they get a pretty decent little shower and you don't get anything. So that one's not as potent as the one that's going to come through tonight. And the big thing with this system is winds. Right now, we're only at 7 miles an hour, but they're going to pick up during the day today. So wind at 7 miles an hour at about 160 degrees, 160, which is a warm wind. And it should warm us up as the day goes on. We take a quick look at the satellite picture, and it looks overwhelming. I'll put the cursor where Lafayette is. There it is right there. But you see the low pressure system moving its way through Oklahoma. Right there where it all clears out, the low is sitting in that kind of curvature area there, somewhere in there. I'd have to analyze it a little closer to figure out exactly where it is, but that's roughly where it is. And it's forcing all these clouds towards us. Most of the precipitation is going to want to go north of us during the day and off to our our west. But the approaching warm front, which you can probably see right now, right through here. It's just south of St. Louis. You wrap around, and the warm front somewhere right in there. And this is an area that will pop up some showers as the day goes on. And that's what may stay together to get all the way to Lafayette later this afternoon for maybe an hour or two where there's a chance for a shower or an isolated thunderstorm to pop through. But you can see thunderstorms forming already way back out towards southern Iowa, Missouri, Kansas City, back towards Oklahoma City. You can even see a line down here to the south starting to form for thunderstorms in the open air back there. Yes, it's winter. But when you have 60-degree temperatures on this side and you have 10-degree temperatures on this side, you get a big temperature difference, and you can pop up showers and thunderstorms, and you have the low pressure system there to be with it. Let's look in a little closer, see if the visual's showing anymore. Well, the visual's showing now. You can see open ground out here, but there's just so much in the high clouds above it. There's not much to see. We're right about here at this point. You notice the clouds are thickening too. So despite not having sun, it's going to warm up because the winds are out of the south. It'll just be a slow progress with us being at what 52 right now, heading towards somewhere near 60 this evening. Let's look and see what the model says right now. Let's start with those gusty winds. All right. Here's the gusty winds. Where are we right now? 15Z, January, Thursday. That's 10 o'clock. All right. So there's 11 o'clock right there. 11 o'clock this morning, you see the winds gusting 25 knots, which is like 25 to 30 miles an hour. And then you start to see a pickup. We are right here, folks, right here where the 29 is. That's where you want to keep your eye on. But notice the winds down here in Missouri are already getting stronger. They're above 35. And then as the day goes on, here we go. There's about when the warm front tries to go through this afternoon. And with that warm front passing through, I see some 30s and 35s, especially off towards Rensselaer. So that's gusting to near 40 on your wind speeds. And the big pocket is still down here heading towards us right now. And that'll come through later this evening. So there we go. We're still strong. These winds are still gusty all night. Here you are at about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. All right. Now you're going to push about 8, 9, 10 o'clock. Look at this. The big wave starts to come through with your showers and thunderstorms back here. These are straight line winds with some occasional mixed in with a thunderstorm. And that could give you some pretty strong winds. Look at this, shows 50 knots out to our west and over us 35. You see 36, 37 down just south of us, Crawfordsville, 42 to 44. That's in knots. That means you're talking 50 miles an hour. These are wind gusts. So your sustained will be like 30. And you'll have gusts of near 50 at times as this moves through. And that right there is 9 o'clock this evening. Here's 10 o'clock, and then look how it gets right over the top of us. 10 and 11, we seem to be right in the pocket of the worst winds at this time frame, right? This is at 11 o'clock. There's a 48 in there. I bet, yep, there's a 50 over towards Attica, West Point, that kind of thing. Pocket of 50s just across over near Champaign. That'll cross through. So now you're talking 55 to near 60 miles an hour for gusty winds this evening. That's at 11. That's at 11 where it kind of peaks and then dies a little bit. And then we drop back into the 30s. And then there's another quick little wave that tries to pop through with winds 40 knots, which is about 45 to 50 miles an hour tomorrow morning at around 6, 7, 8 o'clock. And that'll last a couple hours and it moves through pretty quickly. And then the winds start to die down by the afternoon and we get into much calmer territory back here by tomorrow evening. Let's see if there's a new update on the runs. See how far out we got here. 15Z run is starting to come in and see how it pinpoints the winds a little more. It doesn't quite go out to where we are now for where we're expecting the winds. And this actually looks a little weaker to me than the one did a few hours ago, although there's a 30. Here we are at 4 o'clock. It's still in that 30 to 31 range when the warm front goes through. Scattered showers. This doesn't look quite as strong as the last model did at this time frame, which is 6 o'clock, but there still is a pocket of gusty winds there. Let's go back to the 12Z and see what it did at that time frame. And there's what it did at the time frame. See how their winds are a little stronger, and then they stay together a little bit. So that's a positive. Let's see what happens by this afternoon. There still are no warnings out yet that I can see from the National Weather Service issued for their forecasts. There you go. Nothing there yet on that front. So we're back to our gusty winds and our problems there. Look what it does for our temperatures. It's beautiful, balmy weather for January, but windy. 53, here we are now, pushing up to Crawfordsville 61. We're at like 59. You see the big pocket of yellows and reds down to the south right now for this time of the year. Very, very warm. And there we are at 60 degrees this afternoon. Then the warm front goes through, so it's a little cloudier, maybe a shot of rain cools things off for a moment, but then it rebounds again. Comes right back up by around midnight. We're back up to near 60 degrees. And then we hover there in the low 60s to around 60 for a few hours. And then the temperatures by the morning, by 8 o'clock, it'll still be warm, mid 50s to upper 50s, but very quickly dropping into the 40s by noon and then hovering in the 40s for a while. And then we'll be back down into the 20s and 30s tomorrow night as the system moves through. All right. So precipitation hasn't changed much on any of these models right now. Still looking at the same time frame of when everything moves through. Here comes the model. There's the warm front, 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon, moves through pretty quickly. Then we're on the edge of the showers. Maybe we catch one, maybe we don't. 50-50 to maybe 75% chance it looks like we're going to hit something there right at this time frame. That is 8 o'clock this evening. So somewhere around 6 or 7, it picks back up for showers. Looks like we're in some showers off and on for a while, and then the thunderstorm line starts to come through, and that's 1 o'clock in the morning just to our west. So 1 to 3, 1 to 3 in the morning for the thunderstorms. And remember, some lightning could be involved in there, but the thunderstorms create their own wind, and there's already a straight line flow that's very strong, right? So that's something to keep an eye on for this evening, and that lingers for a while. And what we end up seeing is some sprinkles and light showers in the area tomorrow during the day, as the secondary trough after the front has gone through is kind of locally in there. It just creates some gloominess and cloudiness, even though it's windy out there. Some scattered showers off and on in spots, and then it kind of clears out for Saturday. And the next system approaches, and this will depend on how far the low is away from us. Right now, it's pulling some moisture up into us overnight, Friday night into Saturday, and trying to push it up in here as the low is very far to the south. But we have this rain shield to the north of it. It's trying to push through. And by the 48-hour time frame, which is basically 8 o'clock Saturday morning, it shows some more rain coming in here. This batch of precipitation on different runs has been much stronger or much lighter. I would call this middle of the pack right now, maybe higher on the intensity side, the look of the dark greens and the purples in here and the blues. So Saturday morning looks like there could be some rain in our picture, and it's just dependent on how fast the temperatures drop. The like the snow line is down here already, but you notice they're still showing warmth all the way up enough into here to keep us at the point where we're still in rain. So we'll have to keep an eye on this real closely. Could be a little pocket of ice that forms in there. That's real close. Lafayette's right here. Lafayette's right here. So if the ice forms right along that area, something to keep an eye. Doesn't look real heavy, but we'll have to watch that one. We got a day or two to see what changes over that one. And then we got to go farther out. Let's go to the NAM, which goes out later this afternoon. This is an update change from what it was an hour or two ago. The model finally fully came in. And what it shows, there's the warm front going by. You know, look at this. There's not much with this warm front on this system, right? It has all the moisture out here to the west, which kind of fits with where we're seeing it in this area here, moving up into here, right? But the warm front just brushes across us, and that is at 4 in the afternoon. So at 3 to 4, it shows the big shot of the potential for the warm front to go through, and then it just shows us running along the edge. Maybe we just get into some showers into the evening hours. By midnight, it's showing it, so it's not as active. And then it brings the line of thunderstorms, which are much weaker through by the morning hours. So right in there, that's 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and it kind of has them fall apart. So the NAM is not as strong on the potential for thunderstorms. I think I'll stick with the HER for the potential for the thunderstorms right now, even though they're not going to be very strong. Both models showing lots of wind. And then the NAM doesn't show much for moisture in the area tomorrow, but again, cloudiness, some sprinkles, a light shower here or there, possibility. And then tomorrow evening, it starts to bring some stuff in. And this is Saturday morning, much more widely scattered than what the HER was looking like. It still shows snow to our north, and that goes through pretty quickly. So that doesn't look like much on Saturday morning either. And then a little clipper kind of runs through Saturday night into Sunday. So we've got an active pattern with a lot of stuff going on. But the main rain is this evening. The main strong winds are this evening and tonight. Isolated thunderstorms, but wind gusts could get as high as 60 miles an hour. It looks like on some of the models right there. And then as we go into the long range goes out much farther. This is starting on Saturday. Here we go. This is on Sunday. Let's go back to where we were, see what it says. It's only half done, so I don't know how far we're going to get in on this one. Shows the precipitation moving through. Now we're into Saturday, right? There's Saturday afternoon, that little wave. It's a little stronger than the NAM shows. This rain looks a little thicker. The reason it has bigger is because the areas of the model numbers and what it uses is wider out. It's spread out. Where the HER is in real close. It has lots of data in lots of little places. The farther out you go, the farther the be kind of like 1080 RAM or 1080 looking at it and 720 pixels. So this is more like 720, where the high res is more like 1080 when you look at it. So it's a little more defined. Plus, it's closer in. But what you want to see here is see the circle here with all these blue lines and some cold air moving in. Very typical of winter. I'm not seeing any big changes there on that front. Looks pretty good. It does go out all the way to Tuesday already on this. A couple of scattered showers, still not much there in the forecast for any major systems. And it goes out to next Thursday. So it's not gotten out to the following week like the earlier model did, but there doesn't look like there's a lot there. Let's change it to the temperatures. And these temperatures are just normal. This is normal 30s and, occasional 40s for highs, 20s and teens at night. Um, there should be a pocket of cold back here towards the beginning. So here we are. There's the big warmth for the first couple days, right? The system goes through. Here's some of the cold air trying to get in here on Sunday. Boom, drops in. And then on Sunday evening into Monday, still in the 20s. Nothing major there. 30s for highs and 40s on Monday, maybe back to 30s on Tuesday. And then there's a little warmth towards the middle of the week. And then another little shot of the cold comes back by the end of the week. So these are pretty normal temperatures for this time of the year. There's nothing out of the ordinary there, except for this warmth for the next couple of days. I'll go back to the chart in Lafayette showing us at 52. Is it updated? No. And it goes down to the actual temperatures. Okay, this chart, the black dots on the top are your average highs. The black dots on the bottom are your average lows. The blue is the actual lows that occurred. Starts in March, comes all the way to now, which is today. And these were your highs during that time period. And you notice there's a reason we use averages because there's lots of up and downs. There's less up and down during the summer. And in this case, we were probably slightly cool for summer this year. There's lots of up and downs in the spring. And again, in the fall, that happens. And we're still in an up and down period, even though generally it levels off on the cold by this time. We're not quite there yet. So remember early December, mid-December, when it was like -6, there's that cold right there. It was cold for a while. Then we got some warmth around Christmas Day. Then it got chilly again. We had a little bit of light snow. Now we're back into some warmth. And the models show dropping off temperatures back near normal to even below normal for a day or two, and then back above normal and back near normal there for a while as we get into February. So some of these numbers way out here take averages, but it is showing a system or two maybe being a little warmer by then. But notice those temperatures are colder on the average by that time frame. So none of this is out of the ordinary. We're pretty steady for what we would normally see this time of the year. Maybe a little steadier cold, not as much up and down. So we're very active here for a few days with showers moving through, and then things will start to calm down a little bit after that. So right now, that's what your weather looks like. You got it right here from the man with the plan who will give you a 20-minute forecast, not a 2-minute forecast, and we will look at everything when we go through it the best we can. And we're still waiting to see if National Weather Service will put out some kind of advisory. Probably by this afternoon, they'll have a wind advisory out for our local area. So keep that in mind too, but nothing as of yet. When we go back and we start to look at different things, the rain is approaching St. Louis, like I was telling you about. We'll have to see how much of that sticks together. So now we're going to shift gears, right? We were talking the world. We're going to go back to Purdue now, back to Purdue's basketball game last night. And there's a lot of data to talk about. They won the game last night. That's great news. Yes, they are the number 5 ranked team in the country. They were supposed to win. They were up by 23 in this thing. They were cruising and then just kind of fell apart for a bit. They ended up winning 81-73, so they won by 8. But generally speaking, the second half, they just played lackadaisical. The last 10 minutes, they still had a 20-point lead with like 9.5 minutes left, maybe 10, somewhere in there. And then for like 5 minutes, where did the defense go? Where did the offense go? And Washington took advantage immediately. And they closed the gap up into the lower teens and got down to about a dozen. And then, of course, they scored the last 3 or 4 points or 5 of the last 7, and they closed it to 81-73. But Purdue's 14-1. They're 4-0 in the Big Ten. That's great. But the lackadaisical part, me as a sports guy says, what happened? And then sometimes I think in my mind, they lost their focus possibly, but a lot of these guys are seniors. They don't usually do that. Maybe it was just a rough patch. There is another team out there playing. You got to remember that. It's not like they just give up, right? But sometimes you play to your competition. And you know how Matt Painter doesn't like to blow people out that much. We had a few games there where they were winning by 28, 30, right? But he was getting all the guys on the court by the end of the game, right? And that would always squeeze the score down a little bit. And he's been very consistent with that of not really blowing people out and embarrassing people a lot of times, which is okay. That's fine. But you can't let up too much where a team gets back into the game and might have a chance to win it. And that's kind of the feel that it had last night. And I really only got to see the highlights on ESPN of the actual game. I got to see a lot of the numbers and stuff because I don't have the streaming here for it. So I didn't get to watch the game, but the feel was there. No score, no score, turnover, 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 score, no score, no score, turnover. And in that mix, it was Washington was making some threes. They didn't make very many, but they made them during that time frame. And the next thing you know, it was a 10 to 12 point game, and everybody's like, whoa, 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 with 5 minutes left. And I think it was a dozen or 13 with a minute left. So it's not like the game was ever that much in a worry, but how they played is a little bit. And I'm sure the guys don't like that themselves, and they'll probably try to do something about it. So they led by as many as 23, and they had a double digit lead for 27 of the last 28 minutes. So all but 3 seconds of that, they had a double digit lead. Well, 33 seconds of that, they had a double digit lead, which is more than half the game. They had a double digit lead. Over the last 6 games, Purdue has trailed or been tied for just 16 minutes, 9 seconds over 240 minutes. So that's a pretty good thing. I'm getting a lot of these numbers from the Purdue website itself, the basketball team's website, and the athletics. Over the let's see, the win enables Purdue to match the best 15-game start in school history, which is 14-1. But they've done that like 8 times. But this is 3 years in a row they've done that, right? 3 years in a row. So that's pretty exciting. That means your team is not starting, but has been very consistent. Because Matt Painter's been a pretty good coach for all these years. Gene was good before that too. It's not like Purdue hasn't had a bad team. They just haven't had the national championship yet. Well, now the last 3 years for sure they've been caliber, the national championship caliber teams, maybe even 4 years in a row. Last year's team didn't quite have the cohesion that this year's team has. But the year before, we went to the national championship. The year before that, they were expected to go to the national championship. So it's a strong team. It's a great coach. They're doing well. They're 4-0 again for just the third time, 20 since Matt Painter took over. 2017-18 and 2010-11. That's those 2 seasons were the other 2 that they were 4-0 in the Big Ten. So there's always a hiccup early, right? And I think I said something yesterday about there's a hiccup during the season. I only expect them to lose 1 or 2 games during the season, right? But it could be one of those hiccups where you like Penn State's coming into town on Saturday or Sunday for the next game. I think it's Sunday. Might be Saturday, but Sunday. And what if they have a hiccup? Penn State almost beat Michigan last night, lost by 2. So if you don't pay attention, you play to your opponent's competition level, then you're going to leave them in the game. That's why I think in my mind anyway, that this team should just be running up and down the court like UNLV did, and just instead of having 60 attempts at the basket last night, that's all they took was 60 shots. They should be putting up 75. They put up 75 last night, they score 100, right? Right? As long as they do that. Now you got to keep control of the ball, and that's where they had some problems. They were throwing the ball all over the place last night. But this team can run as long as they're allowed to do it. And that means the set offenses can move quicker too, right? When you run around and have people are chasing you like that, remember, they're more tired than you are, generally speaking. You got the bench to do that. You got the people around you to do that. It makes up for some maybe small things that are not the greatest for Purdue. They say they're not athletic, but if they're running all over the place and guys are having to chase them, then those other guys become less athletic themselves because they're tired too. Really good game last night that they won anyway. They're now 205-15 under Matt Painter when scoring at least 80 points. And that's including 119-5 since the start of 2017-18. So they don't lose much when they score 80. So, but you got to take more shots. Okay. So you took 60 shots and you scored 81 points. What's that? 1.3 on your scoring efficiency, which is good. That's going to stay good. They're the number 1 team in the country for that. But it could be even higher point-wise and easier to win games, in my opinion, because I believe when you slow the game down, you bring the other team into it. And when you're the opposing team who's the underdog, you want to do that. You don't want Purdue to shoot that much, right? Because that gives the gap closer. That means instead of Purdue winning by 30, they win by 15, right? So that's the way I look at it. So if you are the aggressor, you are the better team, you should be moving quicker and taking more shots, right? And that should be your offensive play is to take more shots because you are the better offensive team. And that puts pressure on the other defense who can't stay with you at that point, right? So that's the way I think. Matt, if you're watching, give it a shot. Let's see what happens. um, the Boilermakers shot 67.9% in the first half against Washington, the highest so far this season in the half the season. And then in the second half, they just kind of they didn't bottom out. They just didn't play as well. They won the rebound battle 37-25. And at one point, I believe in the game, it was like 10-11 or 10-12. And Washington was up. So Purdue out rebounded them like 24-12 after that. It was really good, or maybe 27-12. And that was one of Washington's good things. They were ranked 39th nationally in rebound margin. Well, we just extended that, made that a lot worse for sure because we beat them by 12 on the rebounds. The bench scored 20 points, and that's the ninth time in the last 10 games that the bench has scored at least 20 points. And I'll bet you can't find more than a couple teams in the country that have statistics like that, if any, where the bench scores 20 points 9 out of 10 games. Trey Kaufman ran double, baby, 14-14. We're just going to start calling his numbers. 14-14 instead of TKR. He also had 6 assists. That's his 7th double-double this season. He's played 13 games so far. So he only had 4 in 110 games before that. So he also surpassed 1,300 career points in the victory. So good for him. Braden was the man. Yesterday, I told you, Braden will do whatever it takes. If it's assists, if it's rebounds, if it's scoring, he's going to do it. Yesterday, it was scoring. They kept leaving him wide open. They kept leaving him in places where he could get the ball up, and he put him up 23 points, 7 assists, and 3 steals, and he probably could have had 15 assists. Guys were missing wide open threes, wide open shots down underneath the basket. There were some layups missed. So he probably could have had 14 or 15, I think, easily. But it was his third 20-point game of the season. And he peaked at Alabama. He scored 29 against Alabama. Remember, running and gunning, they can do that. And the only reason that game was that close is because Alabama can score too. But you could have slowed that one down, and I'm not sure how that would have went. I liked it running and gunning though. CJ Cox tallied 11 points. Good for him. He did a great thing. That's his third double-double in the last 4 games, and he's averaging like 11 points over the last 6 games. Purdue had 6 players with at least 8 points, including Omer Meyer. Meyer's 8 points were the most for him since November 28th, and he made 2 of 2 from the 3-point range. That's what we've been expecting from him, right? That's what we've really been expecting from him. So, let's go to the actual numbers here real quick. I've got them lined up here, and we'll talk about them because Braden Smith took 15 shots and he made 10 of them. Man, that's hot. That is hot right there. Trey Kaufman-Renn took 11 and he made 6 for his 14 and 14 and 23 and 7 for Braden. Other guys, I always team these two together. Oscar Clough and Daniel Jacobson. How many points did they score? Well, they scored 18. I'll take 18 from my big man anytime. How many rebounds did they get? 8. That's down a little bit. They're averaging like, I think 12 or 13 between the two of them. Maybe, yeah, at least that. Maybe it might even be 14. They're averaging like 18 and 14. You'll take that from your big men anytime. And they scored 18 in this one, but they only got 8 rebounds. Nothing wrong with that. Every game is not going to be the same, right? And a negative. Trey Kaufman-Renn had 6 turnovers, and Braden Smith had 6 turnovers. And some of them were just timing issues, a little sloppiness here or there. It wasn't like Washington was putting that big of the highlights that I saw, that big of a push of a defense on them. But, it's the way it is. And catch this. Off the bench, Daniel Jacobson had his 10 points, right? So between him and Oscar, they had 18. He shot 5 of 6. Omer Meyer was 3 of 4, and Jack Benner was 1 of 1. So they were 9 of 11 coming off the bench. Jakari played 18 minutes. He didn't even shoot. Didn't have to. He just played tough defense, right? So the team overall shot 57%, but they were only 33% from 3 because there were lots of misses. Fletch had a rough game. He only had 5 points. He didn't make any 3-pointers. He was 0 for 4. I still want to see him shoot. If he had shot 6 more 3-pointers, he probably made 3 or 4 of them. That's just the way he is. He's a good shooter. But he had an 0 for 7 game a few games ago. Maybe he's getting a little timid. Stop it. Don't be timid. Just go out and shoot the ball. You're fine. We love you for it. Just keep up at it, right? So that was the Wisconsin-Purdue game last night. They won. They're tied for first place in the Big Ten. They're 4-0 in the Big Ten along with Michigan. and along with Nebraska, surprising Nebraska, huh? That's exciting to see too from Nebraska because they've been known as a football team, not a basketball team. They are 15-0 and 4-0 in the conference. Michigan's 14-0 and 4-0 in the conference, despite the fact Michigan tried to lose last night against Penn State. They only won the game by 2 points. That was a close one for them. About half the league right now is at 500 or above. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams below 500 in conference, that is. And then everybody else is at 500 or above, but only 3 are undefeated. And 1, 2, 3, 4 have one loss, which is Michigan State, Indiana, Minnesota, Illinois, and then 2 losses are Iowa, Ohio State, and Wisconsin and UCLA. All tough outs. Every one of those are tough outs. Last night was supposed to be an easy one. And they made it a lot tougher on themselves, even though, truthfully, they just kind of cruised in the end because it never got better than they had 8 points. But it does put a scare in you once in a while when you see that kind of thing, right? So, so that's the Purdue front. Then we got into a lot of stuff nationwide. And we started talking about the woman who got killed in Minneapolis last night. And there's some protests going on. Violent clashes over fatal ICE shooting grip Minneapolis as Trump savages woman killed for behaving horribly. As you know, President Trump goes to the extremes, no matter what it is. Everything's the most terrible or the bestest ever. You got to get over that. I'm not sure what it is. That's not why people are protesting. Some people believe it was not a good shooting. Some people believe it was fine and everything was good. No worries. Video I've seen makes me lean towards the officer was standing in front of the vehicle and she floored it. And she's trying to get out of there. You can see her put it into reverse and then slam it into the forward and go forward. And he shoots through the windshield because he thinks he's going to get run over. And he's allowed to do that technically. So right now I'm leaning towards that. But maybe the 2 officers that were coming up from the side, if you've seen the video, there's an officer in front, one on the right, and 2 coming up from the side. She's got her window down. The 2 guys on the side are obviously, one's yelling at her, and he comes over to the door. That's when she slams it in reverse. She stops it, and then she slams it into first, or at least that's what it looks like, in my opinion. And then she starts moving forward very fast, and the guy in front draws and shoots through the front window and hits her, and she speeds off and dies down the street. Her significant other, her partner, her wife in this case, that's what they're saying, said she sent her down there. And now she's upset that she sent her down there to go to the protest and that it's her fault that she did it. Well, I don't know what to say. Does that mean there was some intent there? Not sure what that really means. And her own family is split. Some say she should have just minded her own business, and others said that killing wasn't right. That's in her own family, the woman's family. Renee Nicole Good was her name. So there's the protests that are going on, especially in Minneapolis right now. There was a shooting in Salt Lake City. Multiple people got shot dead there. It was 2 dead and 6 injured at a Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints meeting house, and it was a funeral that was going on. No ideas. I think the shooter is still on the run. And here we are, 12, 14 hours after it happened. It was 7:30 last night at their time, which is 9:30 our time. So, because I think they're in the Mountain Time zone. And I do not believe they caught him yet. So active manhunt is still underway to find the shooter or shooters, but the Forces gang unit is involved. Gang unit. So that makes me wonder what was going on there. Was it a gang-related event? Was it a funeral that was gang-related and somebody came and shot it up like gangs like to do? Got to show you're somebody big by doing something like that, apparently. The police chief said this: "We don't believe this was a targeted attack against a religion, but we also don't believe that it was random." So gang related means they did it on purpose and it was at a funeral. So the gang violence crew, detectives were confirmed to be on the case. So that was a shooting in Utah last night. You probably didn't catch that because it was later. Maybe you were watching the ball game. Maybe you were doing something else. Maybe you were thinking about coming to watch me here this morning. Maybe not, maybe not. But that was what was going on in Utah and in Minnesota last night. And of course, we've had the big events with taking the oil tankers yesterday. Two of those were taken. One in the North Atlantic that we had a ship shadowing trying to catch up to it. And once it got close enough, sent a helicopter over there and took it, even though it was a somehow during its transit, it changed to a Russian ship and they put a Russian flag on the side. And Russia's stomping its feet and is mad, but they're not doing anything, at least at this point, unless something's changed in the last hour or two. Um, and Europe's whining and complaining too about this, but they're not going to do anything about it. Um, President Trump is pushing the buttons. He's pushing everybody to the limits to try to figure this out, to get everybody back together and copacetic, so to speak, to get our hemisphere, North America, South America together. So he's working with all these companies and our companies. He's working with all these people. He throws things out there very dramatically to get reactions. And it's a series with him. It's something he always does when he is trying to negotiate something. Throw it out up here and then be okay with something down here, because reality is this is what we wanted in the first place. So make it very dramatic. So everything is very dramatic and over the top. Um, and people go into panic. And I say, wait 24 to 48 hours. We'll see what happens. And what happens? Nothing's happening so far with the tankers. Oh, the world's going to be in World War III. Russia hates us. Not happening right now, right? Yes, they're putting out statements. They don't like it, but they're not doing anything because they can't. They're fighting a war on their own home front that they never should have got themselves into. And so they got their own worries to be worried about. Meanwhile, seems to be sitting rather quietly about all this. They said something about Maduro, but they haven't said anything about anything else. So where is China in all this? We just took some of their oil away from them because they get their oil from some of it from Venezuela, 10 to 20%. So it's one of those things. I'm not sure about China yet at this point. It's obvious they're a foe. They're trying to be the biggest country in the world. They're part of the CRINC. Have you heard of CRINC? Yesterday, I brought out the other one, which was BRICS, which was BRICS was not Belize, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and the S was South America, right? And those countries were trying to get together to become economically strong, and they would cover like half or more of everything that comes and goes in the world. Those 5 countries could do that. Well, Trump has put pretty much a stop to a lot of that with a lot of the things he's doing with tariffs and those kind of things. And while you may not like tariffs, I can't figure it out. Our prices aren't going up hugely, anything like everybody did the scare tactics about. They've been fine. We've been bringing in money. It may be less money for us in taxes eventually down the road. Okay, so tariffs, but it's putting pressure on all these countries. It's putting pressure on China. It put pressure on Iran. It put pressure on Russia. It's putting pressure on all these countries to come to the table to start creating peace or finding something somewhere in the middle that will work out for everybody, like in the war or whatever it is. So that was the BRICS that were trying to do that so they could try to take over the world, basically, in a way, so to speak. Now we have in World War II, you remember you had the Axis and the Allies. The Allies were us and everybody that was with us. The Axis was Germany and everybody was with them. Well, the new Axis is now called CRINC. CRINC. Have you heard of CRINC before? That's China, Russia, Iran, because I kept saying India. It's Iran and North Korea. So it's just the 4 countries, right? Right? CRINC. China, Russia, Iran, Korea. North Korea. Okay, so those 4 are the Axis. That's been obvious for years now to anybody who's been paying attention that those 4 countries have been trying to meddle in everything all over the globe so that they can take over power of the entire globe or whatever power struggle they're trying to get. And be part of. And what they see, and because they see this, because one side of our politics keeps telling everybody we're a dying large country and we're just on the downswing and let everybody else take over, right? That's one side. The other side is, nope, MAGA. We're gonna be the powers still, right? So China and these boys, all of them saw that we were a dying country, and they started making moves, right? China was making moves towards Taiwan. Russia went into Ukraine because they knew they could, because they didn't think the U.S. would do anything. And we really haven't, other than give them money and let them buy our stuff. That's it. That's what we've been doing so far. Um, we haven't put boots on the ground. We haven't done anything like that over in Russia. And Russia knew that. Why did they know that? Well, first off, it was the president at the time. They weren't afraid of him in any way, shape, or form. They're afraid of this one, but they're pretty positive none of us are going to go to a nuclear war. And that mutual assurance thing is a bad thing. So um, both sides hopefully will stay away from that, but you never know when you get cornered, right? When China gets cornered and they don't have enough oil to give to their people and to use, what are they going to do, right? What are they going to do when they need more oil? Where are they going to get it from? Russia doesn't look like they have enough to give to them. They're going to have to either come back to Venezuela, which in turn means the United States, because we're going to be running a lot of that for a while. Um, and that's where we can kind of get at them and control them a little bit more. So there is a hit on China there. Russia's obviously getting a hit. We just stop a tanker from going there. Even though Russia does their own oil, they got to buy oil too, so they can survive. And nobody wants to buy anything from them except for those that are in the crink, right? So if you're in the crink, you're okay. But outside of the crink, you're with everybody else. In Europe itself seems to be dying. It's falling apart. They've bought into socialism just about everywhere and communism everywhere over there. They don't have a problem with that. Hey, that's okay for them, but they sure seem like they're falling apart. So what did they try to do? They tried to get everybody in the World Economic Forum, all of us together, right, as one big new project together, right? The Great Reset, where we reset everything and everybody comes together. That's why Europe did it, because Europe's power has shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. But if they get everybody together, then their power goes up a little bit, right? That's a way for them to gain power and to get control over everybody. And no matter where we're at in this, eventually, we are going to be under cameras everywhere. They already are checking your internet everywhere. You may not like that, and the only way you're going to get away from it is unplugging everything and moving out into the wilderness somewhere. And even then, they probably can follow you. They can look at you with satellites if they need to. um, there's just ways, right? So you can see how this is all moving itself. AI is coming online. Who's going to win that battle? We want the United States to win that battle. We don't want China to win that battle, because then they might use it against us in some certain way. So we want to have the best AI out there. We want to have the best drones out there. And apparently we do. And we used them when we went and got Maduro Friday night, Saturday morning when they went in there. And nobody knows the details on it. And there's a reason nobody knows the details, because we're keeping it secret from people. But apparently we use some of those, not just the troops that we send in there. But you better believe there is a drone army in China right now too. And they make things cheap and they do things cheaply. So when they try to go get to Taiwan, if they try to do that in the next few years sometime, it's going to be a lot more drone wars than people wars. And we're seeing that in Ukraine and Russia, which is a very basic war with people kind of lined up like World War I across the trench at each other, and very little movement in any direction either way, and lots of um, your drones flying around bombing things and shooting people and taking pictures and keeping an eye on everybody. That's the way warfare is going to go. And are we ready for that? Are we ready for that? Um, I remember looking at UAVs when I was in the military. This would have been like the early 90s when they were first starting to come around, and realizing that they were going to be a big factor in being able to use them back then. I remember some of the guys that we were talking about that, and what it was going to do to the military. Nobody knew at that point. The military will adjust one way or the other. The Marines will adjust. The Army will adjust. They probably already have. You got a guy in there who's now running the Department of War, who is a big war guy, not war himself, but the warrior in us. He was one of us. He was in the military. He fought. He's got stars. He's got all kinds of stuff. I don't care if he was on TV or not. He's an in your face kind of guy, and we're going to do this. And he's doing what Trump wants him to do. And I know, I'm guaranteed that the vast majority of veterans out there love Pete Hegseth as the Department of War leader, right? So that's a good thing. And I'm sure they are pushing towards making sure that they have every drone capability they have, that we have the best AI that we have, and that we have the best military that we have. Regardless of your thoughts about uh, gerrymandering your body when you get into the military, whether you're a male or a female or that stuff, There are some jobs that women can't do, and there are some jobs that men shouldn't do, and both can coexist in the military at the same time. You don't have to gerrymander that by saying, well, this is a gal who thinks she's a guy and she can't do the physical stuff because she's really a girl. You see the points here? The point is how do we win the battle the best way we can win the battle? And that's not by giving anybody and their brother a weapon or the opportunities to do certain things that other people are much vastly more capable of doing. And that doesn't mean those other people can't do something. It's just probably something else that they're going to be capable of doing. They can still help out and still be part of it. So no one's against any of that. We're just saying in certain positions you can't put certain people. And we muddied the waters with the transgender stuff with that once we started allowing that in there and allowing for operations and all kinds of things like that. We went to the DEI thing. Now we're back towards what a traditional military is, with a traditional military guy leading. Um, the guy who ran it last time did what his president wanted. No problems. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah. Why is it so many people get upset about somebody doing something? Maybe I didn't like what was happening in the military last time under Biden, but his defense uh, guy that he had in there was just doing what he wanted him to do. Okay, run with it. That's good. Why do we get upset about that? Why do we get upset about the transportation guy doing what the president wants? Well, the president wants that. He's supposed to do that. Oh, he's supposed to say no. No, you want him to say no because you believe something different. That's how it works. Right. So I believe this. I don't like that. But in reality, is this guy's the president. This guy is doing what the president tells him to do. I can complain a bit about it, but in reality, that's exactly what is supposed to happen. So stop sitting here. He's only got people under him that are loyal to him. They all should be loyal to him. All of them, whether it's Trump or Biden, it didn't matter. Right. So they do what they're supposed to do for the president because the president is leading the country. Okay. They only are supposed to say no if it is flat out illegal in some way or shape or form. Right. That's how it works. And then that goes back to the Constitution when you get to that. All right. I hate to get on that soapbox opera like that. So let's go back to that woman real quick. I just flipped through something here. Uh, the woman's significant other, her partner, her wife. This is what she said. Wife of the woman shot by ICE says, I made her come down here to confront agents. And as she breaks down in harrowing footage, and they're showing her seeing that. So her own partner told her to come down here. Her own wife told her that. And then you got people on the left who are thinking solidly. Stephen A. Smith, he's a sports guy. He's a crazy sports guy, but he sees it like it is and what things are happening. But he's on the left. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But they don't like it because he sees it as it is. And when he calls it that way, nobody likes it. Yet they think he could be the president of the United States, even though he's just a sports guy. So Stephen A. Smith says the ICE agent who shot the woman dead in Minnesota was completely justified. He said, just like me, he thought maybe he could have stepped out of the way because I think my first thought would have been to get out of the way. But that's just me. I'm not a cop. I've not been in that situation. I can't say anything. So Stephen A. Smith gets on TV or radio or wherever he got on, and he says that it's completely justified. Meanwhile, the mayor of Minneapolis, St. Paul gets on there throwing out F-bombs all over the place, telling people to leave because the woman was killed by ICE, and he's just stoking it up. Hence the reason they're having protests now. Just like they are in Iran, they're having protests in Minneapolis, St. Paul, because he stoked people into thinking that she got murdered. I don't know whether she got murdered. I'm not sure how that worked. The only way I can see her actually being murdered at this point is if those officers told her to move her vehicle and she said, okay, I'll do that. And it was just very simple thing back and forth. But it looks like she tries to run over the guy or run past him with the vehicle, and he was right in front of it. It's hard to say. Hopefully we have some audio on it. We figure it out. Um, But in my first 24 to 48 hours of it, I'm leaning towards it was a proper thing, and it's a shame she's gone, and that she went down there and confronted them. But can't try to run the guy over, and that's what it looked like he did. Um, so Trump feared Maduro gambit would turn him into another tragic president as he makes seismic commitment to Venezuela. Donald Trump was worried that the Nicolas Maduro takedown could have gone wrong and been a failure that defined his presidency, just like who? Yep, Jimmy Carter. I give Jimmy Carter credit. I don't care if the thing didn't work. Um, this was Iran. Iran took over the hostages in 1979. If you're not aware of what the situation was back then, Jimmy Carter was the president. He was failing. Everything was going bad. Reagan was basically leading. I don't think Jimmy Carter did this for that. Maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe there's a book that says that or not. I don't think Jimmy Carter did that. Um, but Jimmy Carter sent in troops to try to go get our hostages that the Ayatollahs and the mullahs had taken when they took over Iran in 1979. Well, they stopped somewhere in the desert and there was a dust storm. The helicopters and two of them crashed together and a bunch of them were lost. So Trump was worried that could happen to him, and everybody blamed Jimmy Carter. I blame Jimmy Carter for going in there only because I think that was an okay thing. And he's a Democrat. I probably that time, I don't know what I was then. I probably was definitely more Republican then and more middle now. Um, but back then I was probably more Republican, but I thought that was the right thing to do. And I wasn't even in the military yet. I was what, 15 years old, 14, 15 years old. And I thought, well, that's the right thing to do. They went in and tried to get it and it didn't work out. So some troops died. Um, Biden went into Afghanistan and we put troops all over the place. That didn't work out either, and he got blamed for it too because he was the president. Now, going into Afghanistan to get us out of there, I can understand. The plan looked stupid though, and it didn't work out, and it got 13 people killed. So on his side, on Biden's side, I'm like, that was just terrible. That was awful. He did that wrong. Everything was wrong with that. On Jimmy Carter's side, I applaud him for trying to do it, trying to get the people who were hostages out, who eventually came out on what day? The day that Reagan was inaugurated. That's when they all came out because Reagan said he'd come get them. He'd come take them out. And so they gave all the hostages back the day he raised his hand and said, I'm the new president of the United States. So that's how that worked out if you don't know what Jimmy Carter went through. And then, of course, Biden had his own, but however they set up the strategy for it didn't work. They didn't leave anybody there. They should have left people there. Now they've got all of our equipment. We had 13 people killed, plus upwards of 200 that were around them because they were in the middle of a big group when this happened. So we lost the 13 troops, but 200 Afghanis got killed too at the same time, if I remember the numbers right. That was the president's fault for sending it in there and not doing it properly, right? And I know they knew how to do it properly. You can't tell me they didn't because Trump had been thinking about it before, and I believe Obama had been thinking about it before. In both of those cases, they knew that they would have to leave troops there. Obama knew that, and President Trump knew that. But Biden's guys either ignored it, which is what I heard. They ignored them being told you need to leave people there. You can't do this way because they wanted to get a check on the board that they had done something and gotten themselves out of Afghanistan, a war we had been in for 20 years. And it turned south. So that went negative. Jimmy Carter, on the other hand, was trying to rescue our guys. Maybe it was political. It's hard to say. But he was trying to rescue the hostages, and I applaud him for trying to do that, right? And Trump was the same thing. He went in to get Maduro. I applaud him for trying to stop that thing like that on that front, whether you like that or not. And again, here we are talking 2/3 to 3/4 of the people in the country think that was fine to go in there and do that, all right? What else is going on in the world? I'm kind of zipping through things here with the last couple minutes of the show. I could keep getting on that soapbox, but I don't want to do that too much. Purdue had that great game. The weather's going to be good. Let's take a quick look back at that, see what the temperature's up to now. Still at 53 degrees currently. And the satellite hasn't changed much, though. There's not much to see there on that with the big clouds coming in and a frontal system coming in. Purdue wins the big game last night. Oh, and the Purdue's getting in some new staff, and they're doing some different things. They're setting up AI protocols over at Purdue. The county, Tippecanoe County, is trying to set up a building, a 30,000 square foot building, to bring in juveniles, more for rehabilitation instead of incarceration. To try to rehabilitate. And I believe that younger mind is easier to rehabilitate than older minds, but we need to do more of that too in our regular prisons, right? But Tippecanoe County is looking at getting a building to try to help out with the juveniles. I think that's a good thing for them, and that'll help out the kids that are struggling, that are going through problems. We heard about a gang problem. Someone in a gang was arrested this week for saying stuff on the internet, and that there are gangs in Lafayette because there's influences from Chicago and Indianapolis, and they like to meet here. And now they're starting to try to take over a little bit of Lafayette, because if you don't realize it or not, Indianapolis is growing up I-65 to Indianapolis, and Chicago is growing down 65 towards Lafayette. Obviously, that's going to take decades for that kind of thing to happen, but you can see the buildings going up all along the interstates and all along it. And eventually it's just going to all fill itself in as one big major place. Now that could be 20 years, 40 years from now, not sure on the time frame on that, but people are planning on it and looking into it, and Lafayette's in the middle of that. So while we're a large city, we're starting to get the influences of gangs and other problems in here, and hopefully that'll juvenile facility will help out with some of the strain that we have on our juveniles, our kids that are struggling. All right, so that's it for now. 53 degrees right now outside, getting up to 60. Chance for a shower here this afternoon, probably 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Big, strong, gusty winds coming in that we'll be seeing this afternoon into the evening hours, and gusts near 50 to 60 miles an hour in some spots. Slight chance for some thunderstorms this evening, too, probably around 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Only a very isolated chance this afternoon, with more rain tonight and the strong gusty winds lasting through tomorrow. Some sprinkles and cloudiness tomorrow with an in and out of everything, but kind of just a gloomy day tomorrow, I think. It looks like more than anything else. And it does seem like the temperatures will drop for a while. So we're going to be very, very warm in the 60s tonight. The high tomorrow will become at like 2 in the morning for Friday, and then it will fall off all day. And then it'll be chilly for a few days, but that's about normal. And then there'll be some up and down next week, and then it gets much colder the week after that. So that's your long range forecast. It's been great talking with each and every one of you. I love being able to talk with you guys and be able to do things. I had one more thing here. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I think it's at the end. Because I'm a pastor and I wanted to talk about different things, that I would bring up some scripture at the end of this. So from Psalms 147, 16 through 18, it says this: He spreads the snow like wool and scatters the frost like ashes. He hurls down his hail like pebbles. Who can withstand this icy blast? So he sends his word and melts them. He stirs up his breezes and the waters flow. May this remind us that God's control over the elements and our lives still stays faithful and stays safe with him, because he has that control with you. And that's a good thing. Once you have gotten yourself attached to Jesus, you will feel so much more positive, much more uplifting, and you will feel like the bad times are down here instead of way down here where they really get you. So just remember, God's got control of everything. So we kind of mixed a little weather in there with God at the same time. All right, that's it. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless, Lafayette.